He strikes the earth, declaring that solitude is a mark of the strongest. Suddenly, a centipede beast demands why he's there charging while accusing him of betrayal. Unfazed, the boy turns, easily deflecting the creature's blows. As the monster shrieks, he calmly replies that words are useless for the dead. Enraged, the centipede roars and lunges at him one last time. He dodges, effortlessly musing that great power brings great loneliness. And though his power was good, many had called him a wicked god. From the sky he looks down, wishing them both freedom in their next lives. With that final thought, he dives, slicing the centipede clean in two. The beast disintegrates, leaving only a small stone in the hero's hand. He gazes at the magical reincarnation stone, celebrating his ultimate prize. He declares that now he could finally be truly free. And as he used the item, the stone began to glow with power. This, he recalls, is how he was reborn into a future world. After 3 reincarnations, the strongest swordsman became a rank F adventurer. Sometime later, in a new world, he was simply relaxing on the grass. Beside him were 2 beautiful friends and their adorable slime companion. He smiles, getting up and thinking this is the start of his free life. After using the stone, our hero awakens in a strange new place. He finds himself in a cave, wondering where and even who he is. All at once, a status window appears, displaying the name Azawa Yuri. Looking at the screen, he figures that must be his name now. Some low-level goblins appear from behind, surrounding him as he wonders what they are. Then a deep voice booms, questioning his presence in this place. A massive green creature asks the human what he is doing here. We see this is a formidable B-rank goblin lord. Our protagonist simply replies that he has no idea either. The goblin lord just laughs, convinced the foolish human is lying to him. The monster assumes Yuri is a guild member who simply got scared. But it was far too late for regrets. He wouldn't let the boy escape. And so the goblin commands his small army of creatures to attack. Yuri, still completely lost, wonders how he ended up in this situation. He glances to the side and spots a simple twig on the ground. Remembering his past as a master swordsman, he snatches up the twig instantly. Yuri notes his body moved on instinct as he strikes a goblin. The other creatures freeze, seeing their comrade tossed aside so easily. But the goblin lord yells at his minions, ordering them not to falter. Driven forward, the creatures charge at Yuri once again. With just a twig, he fends them all off, amused that his body reacted to wood. The goblin lord watches in terror as his army is defeated by a single boy. Yuri suddenly receives a flood of system notifications about new skills. He then recalls his past life as the legendary sword saint. Whenever he held a weapon, his body just knew what to do. While Yuri is lost in thought, the goblin lord prepares its final attack. It gathers energy, then unleashes a powerful fireball. The goblin was sure, even for a strong kid like Yuri, that magic was inescapable. But when he looked again, the boy was just standing there totally unharmed. It looked like Yuri had simply absorbed the entire spell. The panicked goblin couldn't believe it. How was that human alive after his attack? But Yuri just said the spell's name and blasted the goblin into oblivion with a massive explosion. After the explosion, the boy calmly mentioned remembering another past life. The memory just popped into his head when he paused for a moment. He explained that in one of his past lives, he'd been a demon emperor. That was even before he was the sword saint of Sur. Right then, Yuri started checking his status window, which listed all his past life powers. The kid explains this is his 3rd reincarnation here. His first life was as a corporate drone. His first time around, he was reincarnated as a demon emperor. His 2nd reincarnation made him a legendary sword saint. But now in his 3rd life, all those memories are coming back to him. A memory flashes by. He sees villagers desperately pleading for his help. But those same villagers saw him on a pile of bodies and called him a monster for his power. Shaking off the memory, the boy started climbing his way out of the cave. When he finally reached the outside, the young man was amazed. He mentions that he wanted to escape his old life so badly, he chose to reincarnate again. Yuri mutters that he's sick of being used by everyone and then tossed aside. So this time, in his 3rd life, he's decided to live just for himself. Out in the open, Yuri started taking stock of the body's belongings. He found a sword, some money, and some food. Looking it all over, the boy figured it was better than nothing. He eyed the rusty sword, wondering if it was even useful or just a heavy stick. Just then, a brand new skill popped up analysis. He tried it out, and his eyes shifted, revealing the sword's stats and description. Noticing the weapon was junk, he decided to analyze everything else he had. He quickly realized this skill let him check the info on basically anything. But Yuri noticed he couldn't get any information on his current location. He really wished there was someone else around to ask. Suddenly, a noise from the woods made the boy quickly grab his sword. He wondered if it was a monster, and then a cute little slime bounced out. Our hero was pretty confused. Yuri saw the slime wasn't hostile, so he decided to avoid a pointless fight. The little critter then waddled to his food bag, making our hero wonder if it was hungry. He tossed a little piece of jerky to the monster, which happily gobbled it up. Right after that, a system notification said he'd gained some monster taming skills. Just then, the little slime bounced over to Yuri. As he patted its head, he realized the skill let him talk to monsters. Yuri also figured out that his actions could actually change the skills he learned. All of a sudden, a scream echoed out. Glancing over, Yuri saw a half-human, half-wolf person running and shouting for help. Talk about perfect timing, Yuri thought, and immediately started to run after them. Yuri caught up to the stranger, casually asking if they had a minute to talk. The boy tries to ask the nervous Poncho questions, but the confused wolf insists this isn't the right time. Puzzled, Azawa asks if there's some trouble. The wolf tells him to just look back where a giant chicken monster is giving chase. The cockatrice circles overhead, ready to snatch them up. Azawa asks if he'll get answers for beating the monster. Completely desperate, the wolf agrees to his deal. Just like that, our hero draws his sword to face the monster. Sensing his blade alone won't be enough, he charges it with magic, unleashing a blue beam that shakes the very forest. When the dust clears, the monster is split perfectly in half along with a huge chunk of the forest. Poncho is absolutely terrified. Meanwhile, Yuri gets new skills as his sword shatters, seeing the pieces. He notes he boosted the weapon, but it couldn't handle that much magical power. Utterly horrified, the wolf calls him a monster and makes a run for it. Azawa catches up easily, reminding him of their deal as a frantic Poncho pleads for his life. Back at the scene, the little slime arrives to find the monster split in two, spotting an orange crystal. Sometime later, Azawa explains to Poncho that he's lost his memory, has no idea where he is, and needs help. So, Poncho admits he thought Azawa was a demon, but the boy says he only fights aggressive foes. The wolf realizes this kid in front of him is genuinely clueless. So he explains that this area is the cockatrice's forest territory. Poncho says his team was hunting for rare items, but they used him as bait in a monster's lair and left him. Sighing, he adds that he truly trusted his companions, which makes Yuri pause. Getting back on track, the wolf apologizes and explains that one-shotting a cockatrice means Azawa must be a powerful adventurer. Thus, Poncho suggests he visit the Adventurers Guild. He says if Azawa uses his name, the guild might have some info on him. Noticing Yuri's confusion, Poncho explains adventurers take on guild quests for rewards. Missions range from fighting monsters, gathering rare items, or even finding lost pets. Plus, your rank determines which quests are available. He adds that it's 20 kilometers away in the trading city of Redial. Hearing this, Yuri recalls this job existed in one of his past lives. Yuri decides adventuring is perfect. He'll have no attachments and can live as he pleases. So, Azawa thanks Poncho for the info, saying he'll head for the Adventurers Guild. He realizes 20 kilometers is pretty far and starts thinking about how to get there. But another cockatrice suddenly appears, making Poncho panic. Poncho takes off running, leaving our hero wondering how to fight with his shattered sword. But then the creature lands right in front of him, and it starts acting just like the slime from before. Watching this, Yuri realizes this has to be his tamed slime. Checking its stats, he learns it changed form by eating the cockatrice's magic stone. He realizes his slime can transform just by eating magic stones. Yuri thinks he has a really cool ability when an idea pops into his head. A little later, we find Yuri soaring through the sky on his slime. He thinks this is amazing and can already spot his destination. After they land near the city, Yuri thanks his slime for the ride. However, Yuri mentions that if the creature enters the city looking like that, it'll cause a scene, so they should probably part ways here. With that, the young man turns to say a sad farewell to his companion, but suddenly the creature glows brightly and flies right at him. It turns out the slime has reverted to its original, but much smaller form. Seeing this, Yuri figures that having the little slime around could actually be pretty useful. As they head for the city, he asks if the slime wants to stick with him. The slime happily agrees, so Yuri decides to name it Lime. Inside the guild, Yuri goes to the front desk to become an adventurer. Seeing that the boy is a new applicant, she asks for his skills and experience, but Yuri is a bit confused. The receptionist explains that with so many people wanting to be adventurers, they now have to consider prior experience in their selection. Thinking back on everything he's experienced, he decides he can't talk about his past lives, so he just says he has no special skills. The attendant regretfully informs him that if that's the case, it might be a little difficult. So Yuri figures it's a lost cause and prepares to leave until someone bursts in thinking there's a fight. The receptionist sees him and quickly explains the situation. The man lets out a sigh and tells her to go get things ready. As he leaves, Galio muses that if a total novice joins his guild, its reputation will suffer, and this is no place for a weakling like Yuri. Because of that, he's going to teach the kid about reality. Next thing you know, Yuri is in front of a weird machine. Galio calls it a magic meter, a device that measures someone's magical power. and can identify their true potential. If Yuri scores over 30, he'll qualify to take the adventurer's exam. The grumpy man thinks no rookie could ever hit 30, and that Yuri will give up once he sees his low score. Yuri then innocently asks what would happen if he accidentally broke the device. Would he still get to take the exam? The receptionist and Galio both burst out laughing. The old man comments he's never met anyone as bold as Yuri. Galio smirks, saying the meter goes up to 99.99, so a beginner could never break it. Well, if you say so, Yuri thinks, placing his hand on the magic circle. In an instant, a blinding light erupts from the device. Galio and the receptionist are both blown off their feet. They watched baffled as the meter climbed higher and higher. The device suddenly bursts. Galio's shocked, but Yuri just apologizes and says it should be fine. A shaken Galio stammers that the machine must have been faulty. Privately, Galio thinks this is impossible. The kid must have cheated somehow. He's furious that some nobody would pull a fast one in his guild. He decides this kid is just begging for a lesson. So Galio announces that since the test failed, he'll give Yuri a special chance to pass the exam. Yuri, seeing this, thinks the examiner is a genuinely nice guy. The scene then shifts to a very crowded coliseum. Galio informs Yuri the exam starts in 3 minutes, so get ready. Looking at the huge crowd, Yuri realizes getting in won't be easy. Suddenly, a friendly girl asks if he's having any trouble. She asks if it's his first time here. He just thinks she's a bit too energetic. The cheerful girl says he can ask her anything if he's curious. Arnett proudly declares this is her 7th attempt, so she knows it all. Yuri is completely stunned by this. He asks if people usually take the test more than once. Totally offended, she bursts into tears, explaining she's failed every single time. Arnett adds that since Galio took over, the test is way harder. Galio then declares the first test is fencing. Anyone who can defeat him passes. Just then, a challenger named Johnny Serpent steps up, drawing his sword. The two take their stances, and their blades immediately clash. Watching Johnny trade blows with the examiner, the crowd realizes he's actually pretty strong. Yuri sees their skill as equal, but something feels off. Just then, Johnny taunts the examiner, saying he's not so tough. But Galio just scoffs that his skill is lacking and shatters Johnny's blade. Johnny can only stare in total shock. Galio tells him he'll never be an adventurer and needs to start over. As Johnny walks away, defeated, someone wonders why nobody can beat the examiner. But Yuri, using his skill, sees Galio won because his sword is better. The examiner then announces the next challenger, Yuri. He calls for the young man to come forward. As Yuri approaches the center, Arnett shouts her support. Yuri draws his sword, wishing he'd seen more of Galio's moves, but he has no choice. The moment Yuri unsheathes his blade, the entire crowd gasps. His sword is snapped in half. Yuri remembers his sword broke during that cockatrice fight. Seeing this, Galio bursts out laughing at the pathetic weapon. The examiner says he can quit now since he hates bullying the weak. Accidentally killing the kid would look bad on his record after all. Yuri wonders how he can fight with this, but knows he has to try. Yuri just says, let's begin. He even declares he'll win this fight in 1 second. Enraged, Gel lunges at his opponent with a barrage of insults and strikes. Using his shrink skill, Yuri instantly appears right behind his foe, pressing his shattered blade against the man's neck. Phil is amazed. Yuri explains his technique lets him slip through an enemy's blind spot. He mentions that he used this trick all the time as the sword saint, and he's glad it works just as perfectly in this life. The examiner drops his sword, admitting defeat. Yuri has officially passed. At that, the entire crowd erupts into cheers for Yuri's victory, just as Yuri wonders if he's finally an adventurer. A mysterious figure appears, declaring the exam isn't over. Magnificolos announces it's time for his grand magic test. A magical target materializes high in the sky, baffling everyone. Magni tells the candidates to begin casting their spells. Whoever manages to destroy the target will pass the test. This seems simple to Yuri, but the other applicants look terrified by the distance. Arnett scoffs that, as expected, the test is designed for everyone to fail. Yuri is a little confused by her pessimistic attitude. He just assumes the target is made of some special material. A moment later, the candidates start launching various spells, but every single one fizzles out before it even gets close. As they complain, Yuri wonders why they're all using such low-level magic. Suddenly, Magni gets in Yuri's face, trying to intimidate him. He asks if Yuri plans on just standing there and watching. The instructor laughs smugly, assuming Yuri can't use magic at all. He explains that if you master one skill, it's impossible to learn another. The man insists that without decent magic, you can't be an adventurer. And this year he complains there are no promising candidates. Just as he's about to fail everyone and call it a day, Yuri calmly launches a single fireball toward the target. The spell grows as it flies, hitting the target in a massive explosion. Everyone is completely stunned by the sheer power. One candidate shouts, asking why a legendary Inferno magic user is here. Yuri is just confused. To him, that was only a normal fireball. Far outside the city, a hooded figure watches the fiery magic fade. The figure notes that he has finally awakened, though he's still unpolished. And as he melts back into the darkness, the man says he looks forward to the day they finally meet again. Back in the arena, Yuri is trying to wake up the fainted instructor. The friendly receptionist congratulates him and hands over his adventurer license. She explains that all new adventurers start out at F rank, and they have to climb the ranks through their achievements. Before the woman can explain anything else, Arnett leaps at Yuri, shouting that she's finally found him. He easily dodges and realizes it's the girl from the exam. She apologizes for the late introduction, says her name is Phil Arnett, and asks him to just call her Phil. The girl kept asking for his name, and eventually the young man gave in. He sighed, telling her he was Yuri. Beaming, Arnett showed off her own brand new adventurer's license. Arnett explained that because of what Yuri did, the examiners were disciplined. A new test was held, and she finally passed. For that, she was grateful to him. She insisted it was all thanks to him, but Yuri just said he didn't do anything. Overhearing them, some veteran adventurers got jealous of the rookie's attention. One of them nudged his friend Zach, asking what he thought. The man glanced at Yuri, muttering that the kid was annoying. A day later, the boy woke up peacefully in a hotel bed. Looking out the window, he wondered when he last slept so soundly. Yuri recalled his past life of constant battles. Yesterday had been a lot to take in. Suddenly, a system notification popped up. An unassigned magic skill had been acquired. This just confused the main character, who had no idea what it meant. He stared at the system window for a moment before deciding to just ignore it. Yuri noted that being an adventurer meant extra cash to afford a proper inn. With that happy thought, he decided to sleep in a little longer. But his plans were ruined when Arnett burst in wishing him a good morning. Yuri asked why she was up so early while she stared shocked at his bed. He explained the inn's bed was terrible, so Lime just transformed into one for him. The main character added that after a few things happened, the slime became his companion. Its name, he said, was Lime. Arnett remarked how amazing it was that he could command monsters, which surprised Yuri. All of a sudden, she started creeping closer to Lime. With a scary look on her face, she asked if she could give the little guy a squeeze. Before Yuri could even answer, she was already happily plopped down on Lime. He asked what she was even doing there, which seemed to jog her memory. The young woman announced that she forgot to mention the exam wasn't truly over. She explained that even after passing, there's still a secret test to complete. That meant they were only temporary adventurers for now. Yuri knew losing his license would be a pain, so he had to do this secret exam. Arnett said she figured he'd say that, which is why she already accepted a popular quest. Then she asked if he wanted to join her on it. However, the main character immediately said no, which left the girl absolutely crushed. Arnett, confused, just asked why not. Yuri simply said he works better alone and suggested she find a different partner. The boy walked to the door but paused to ask how to accept a mission. His question made Arnett wonder if he would really be okay on his own. Worried, the girl insisted, but he calmly said he didn't mind being by himself. Arnett looked down sadly, admitting she wasn't special or anything, but seeing Yuri during the exam had inspired her to try and become just like him. She really wanted to learn from his strength up close, asking one last time to go with him. Yuri was moved, realizing he truly didn't understand this world at all. He understood himself even less, and for the time being, staying with Arnett seemed like the right choice. He finally agrees, making her beam with joy, but then something catches his eye. He asks Arnett to go first, saying he needed a moment to change. But something was clearly on his mind. Once she's gone, he opens his window, spots a distant bell, and takes aim. Yuri charges a fire magic shot and lets it fly right at the bell. Turns out 2 people were spying on him with binoculars, and they get hit. The fire bullet had smashed right into their binoculars. One spy can't believe it. He hit them from so far away. His companion decides it's best to retreat and report this to Zach. Yuri is baffled. He has no idea why someone would be watching him. He wonders if he's done anything to make an enemy. Just then Arnett calls for him, and Yuri yells back that he's coming. As Arnett guides him, Yuri realizes they're in yet another forest. He glances over and spots 2 small animals, clearly F-rank creatures. The moment they sense Yuri's aura, the 2 creatures scamper away in terror. Watching them go, Yuri notes these missions are more peaceful than he thought. Arnett cheerfully agrees, saying they're just really lucky. She says this herb quest is a favorite for new adventurers since it's low risk. Plus, she got up early just to queue up and grab this mission, which makes her feel pretty proud. Yuri genuinely calls her amazing, which immediately makes Arnett blush. Noticing Yuri wandering off, Arnett points out the northern forest is the other way. Confused, Yuri asks if he can't just gather the herbs here. She quickly tells him that's a definite no. Arnett warns him that this area is way too dangerous for them. This is the eastern forest, home to some seriously powerful monsters. She begins to drag Yuri away, insisting they need to be in the northern forest. That jogs his memory. His window faced this forest full of high-rank monsters. Speaking of which, Yuri says, "I took down a cockatrice yesterday." Arnett just laughs, thinking he's making a really bad joke. They finally arrive at their destination. Arnett proudly presents the field of medicinal herbs. But Yuri notices there are no herbs left, much to Arnett's confusion. Yuri figures someone must have already come and collected them all. Annoyed, Arnett grumbles that she was sure they'd be the first ones here. Just then, a man named Zach shows up with his party. He tells the two it's bad luck, as his group just collected all the herbs. When Arnett asks who they are, Zach introduces himself as their senior adventurer. He says they can relax, but Yuri recognizes them from the guild reception. Zach knows they're on provisional licenses, and since his group gathered too many, he'll share. Arnett's eyes light up excitedly, asking if he's being serious. Of course, Zach says. Adventurers should help each other. Getting emotional, she cries that she can't believe they met such kind people. She promises she will never forget their kindness. Just as the young girl reaches out to take the herbs from Zach's hand, he tosses the herbs down, crushing them under his boot. Showing his true colors, he claims they'd never do that, calling Phil a loser. Zach laughs, saying adventuring is all about getting famous, even if you have to step on other people. He says it's no job for weaklings who can't do anything by themselves, or for clueless kids who know nothing, so he tells them to just give up and go home. Yuri figures out the guy was definitely bad news, and wonders if they were the ones watching him that morning. Still, he couldn't recall doing anything to them, which was really annoying. Phil just asks what's wrong with these guys. Annette runs over, saying there's still time and they should check the forest for leftover herbs. Yuri knows that if he just stands around, he'll be waiting for his license to be taken away. But searching for more herbs with just him and Phil isn't realistic. While he's thinking, Lime suddenly pops right out of his pocket. Yuri asks his pet what's wrong since he already fed him. But Lime is agitated and sends a quick thought straight into Yuri's mind. Yuri seems to get it. He prepares to throw Lime, saying he's counting on his little monster. He throws his companion, and suddenly the creature grows gigantic in the sky, then splits apart, scattering throughout the woods. Staring in confusion, Phil asks what in the world's happening. Yuri grins, saying it's fine as long as they collect the herbs. All the little pieces of Lime get to work, gathering medicinal plants. Before long, they've collected a huge pile. Seeing this, Annette is totally impressed and cheers with delight. Yuri praises Lime, telling him he did an awesome job. Our hero says they can head back now, but Annette looks sad and tells him to go on ahead to the guild. The girl says she wants to explore the forest a little more, and will be back soon. A little while later, deep in the woods, Annette thinks to herself that Yuri is truly incredible. She glances at the single leaf she managed to find by herself. Compared to Yuri, she feels like a failure. Zach's mean words echo in her head, making her feel down. Annoyed, she thinks that, at this rate, she'll never become like Uru-san. She has to do something with her own power. And so Annette leaps through the trees, searching the woods, determined to find what she's looking for. After a bit, she finally finds a field full of herbs and happily starts to gather them. With all of this, she can become a real adventurer, but then a low growl sounds in front of her. A white wolf appears. She sees it's a rank E creature. She gets scared, wondering if she's gone too far into the forest. As the wolf creeps closer, she readies her sword, telling herself she has to do something. But fear starts to set in. She's just a rank F adventurer after all. Could she really take on a rank E wolf alone? She begins to back away slowly until she remembers Yuri saying she was amazing. Model. A surge of courage filled her. She had to stand on her own. She was an adventurer too. Taking a firm stance, Arnett declared she would handle this herself. The wolf lunged to attack, but she expertly blocked its fangs with her sword. The impact sent her flying back into a tree. Staying composed, Arnett decided to carefully watch her opponent's moves. Without hesitation, the wolf charged again, smashing into the tree behind her. But Arnett had already leaped into the air. From above, she brought her blade down upon her foe. Her blade found its mark, striking the creature right on its head for the win. Seeing her victory, Arnett celebrated, realizing she could win if she just tried her best. But her celebration was cut short as more of them appeared right behind her. The wolves circled in, and her courage quickly turned to fear. As the pack closed in, Arnett could only shut her eyes in terror. Just then, our hero appeared, sweeping the girl into his arms and to safety. She was so relieved to see Yuri, she nearly cried. He smiled and told her to leave the rest to him. Our main character set her down gently, then turned to face the pack. Arnett was confused, so Yuri explained that he owed her for helping him get the herbs. Besides, he admitted he'd actually been following her the whole time. He complimented her, saying she moved with surprising agility. He even said her fight with the wolf was impressive, which made the poor girl blush. The wolves roared impatiently, then charged at the pair once more. Yuri recalled getting water magic just yesterday at the inn from a simple drink. He figured now was the perfect time for a test run. As he gathered his magic, he politely apologized for the swift victory to come. In an instant, a huge water vortex erupted, sending wolves flying everywhere. Still, a few of the creatures were left standing, which annoyed Yuri a bit. He realized the spell was great for control, but lacked any real stopping power. Unfazed, the remaining wolves lunged at him again. But drawing his sword, Yuri decided to try a little improvisation. He then unleashed a flurry of strikes, his blade flowing with water magic. Turns out this was an advanced skill called the Ice Sword. Even so, the determined wolves showed absolutely no fear. So Yuri slammed his sword down, erupting ice spikes that pierced the monsters. Watching the monsters fall, Arnett cheered that it was amazing, just as she'd expect from him. But Arnett noticed a problem. The more wolves he defeated, the more that showed up. She quickly told her partner that wolf packs almost always follow a single leader's orders. She figured there must be a boss monster nearby commanding the whole pack. Yuri immediately got the hint. He just needed to beat the boss to make the pack scatter. Just then he started hearing frantic calls from Lime inside his head, confusing him. He closed his eyes, activating his tamer ability to see directly through Lime's vision. This let him pinpoint the real target. After spotting the rank C silver wolf, our hero praised his pet for a job well done. In a flash, Yuri dashed forward, cutting down any wolves that got in his way. Yuri unleashes his fire shot ability, which weaves past the trees, heading for the silver wolf. But the creature senses him and dodges just in time. He realizes hitting it through the dense forest won't be easy, so it's time for a more aggressive plan. He begins to conjure a massive fireball, startling even Arnett. Yuri yells for Line to get out of the way now. The little creature immediately scurries to safety. Our main character launches a huge fire vortex at his foe, scorching the woods. The wolf is helpless as the spell hits, creating a massive cloud of smoke. The poor animal is charred instantly, leaving Arnett completely terrified. Arnett just screams, asking what in the world that was. When Yuri calls it basic fire magic, she insists it was anything but normal. Several magic stones dropped from the defeated wolf. Arnett congratulates him, amazed at all the loot he gathered. Still, she wonders how the two of them will carry that mountain of herbs. Yuri agrees it's too much for them. A storage spell would be perfect right now. Just then, the system sends him a notification. He has acquired a brand new ability. Later, we see Arnett showing her hard-earned stone to the guild receptionist. The receptionist's eyes widen at the sight of the magic stone. She asks if Arnett really got it from a wolf, and she proudly confirms. The clerk congratulates her, noting it's rare to beat a Class E monster on a first mission, making Arnett puff up her chest. And with that, she says Arnett is now a formal rank F adventurer. This news makes Arnett absolutely ecstatic. She starts jumping for joy, and Yuri smiles, saying he's happy for her. The attendant then calls out for Yuri, announcing it's his turn. The receptionist notices that Yuri isn't carrying anything. He just asks her to wait a moment, explaining he's about to get his items. He then activates his spatial contraction magic, summoning a huge pile of herbs and monster parts. The attendant is stunned, asking where he pulled all of that from. Yuri thinks to himself that spatial magic allows for complete control over space. He never imagined he'd get to use such an incredibly useful spell. Yuri reflects that he sleeps less with each new skill. Maybe it's a side effect of living here. All the appraisers are blown away by the massive number of items he brought in. One of them spots a green gem, and upon checking it, confirms it's a wind magic stone. Seeing such a rare find leaves the appraisers completely baffled. A white-haired man asks if the main character truly defeated a silver wolf. Yuri simply says yes, and asks if there's some kind of problem. His calm reply leaves the entire room speechless. They quickly excuse themselves, asking Yuri to please wait for a moment. Arnett tells him not to worry, saying he'll definitely become an adventurer, which helps him relax a little. A long time passes, and Arnett complains they're taking too long just as someone returns. The white-haired appraiser thanks Yuri for his patience and begins to inform him. Promoted to B rank, Phil is ecstatic, cheering that this is amazing. The analyst adds their guild would be honored to have an adventurer like Yuri. He says they can proceed with the official registration right away, but Yuri turns him down, saying he'll just stay in F rank for now. Everyone is completely baffled, and Arnett just lets out a scream. Outside, Phil has to ask if he's serious about passing up a promotion. Yuri simply says it looked like too much trouble, so he passed on it. Arnett points out that higher ranks get called into the guild much more often. He agrees, thinking he doesn't want to repeat the mistakes of his past life. Before Arnett can argue any further, Yuri says he just wants to live freely at his own pace. This means they'll all work together as F-rank companions. Phil just exclaims that the boy is really something else. She notes that he's always true to himself and incredibly determined. Arnett admits she only beat one wolf and felt useless when surrounded by the pack. She's nothing like Yuri. Yuri cuts in, saying she has strengths he lacks and he couldn't have passed the exam without her. Besides, like he said before, she's genuinely amazing. His words make her beam, and she promises to work even harder to catch up. He just tells her to do her best. Meanwhile, Zack watches from a distance, still completely annoyed by their presence. Suddenly, Zack turns, asking a shadowy figure if he's going to handle the job. A strange figure in a clown mask simply answers that he absolutely will, noticing Arnett stretching. Yuri asks if she's tired. She admits the day was exhausting, so he tells her to get some rest, and she agrees. Before she leaves, Phil tells Yuri to get a good rest and not stay up too late. As she walks off, she says goodbye, thanking him for everything he did that day. Our hero wonders what to do next until his stomach rumbles, reminding him he hasn't eaten all day. Spotting a tavern, he figures since he sold his loot, he can finally afford a proper meal. The tavern keeper welcomes the new customer until he sees exactly who it is, wondering why the heck that kid is here. Yuri recognizes him as the wolfman he met in the forest. The wolfman gets annoyed that Yuri forgot his name. As Yuri sits, he asks what he's doing there. The wolfman reveals he's officially retired from adventuring, while whipping up some food. He says he got scared of dying after his party abandoned him. There was just no point in continuing. He then serves up Poncho's special black spaghetti, giving a whole speech about it. While eating, Yuri compliments him, saying Poncho is a great cook. The wolfman lights up, replying that he was his old party's cook. But then he changes the subject, warning Yuri he's heard some amazing rumors about him. And in the tavern, people were buzzing about the new kid and his crazy performance in the adventurer exam. But Poncho tells Yuri to be careful. Getting too cocky will definitely get him on Zack's radar. Yuri is confused, but then remembers that was the guy from the forest. He asks if Poncho knows him. Poncho. It turns out Zack was an old party member who ditched him, a real user. The wolf adds that Zack's been hiring assassins to go after new players. It was all to jack up the rewards for his own missions. Yuri asks if the assassin looked like their uninvited guest from the window. Just then a clown-masked figure strikes, but our main character dodges it. The masked man introduces himself as the magnificent Metsu. Poncho immediately recognizes the infamous human-slaying clown. He wonders what on earth that guy and his scythe are doing here. Metsu lunges forward, ready to strike his target once more. As he blocks the hit, Yuri can't figure out why this guy holds a grudge. But the block shatters Yuri's sword. Now useless, he resorts to dodging. The fight rages through the tavern, with Metsu attacking and Yuri dodging. The smug clown taunts that Azawa is a coward for running away. He proudly declares that he is the absolute strongest. Yuri knows fire magic would wreck the shop, so he needs a new weapon. Metsu swings in for what he thinks is the final blow. But Yuri spots something behind him and quickly darts aside. He lets Metsu's scythe smash some bottles on a shelf, sending them flying. Our hero snags a bottle midair and imbues it with magic. He tells Poncho he's borrowing it, then smacks the assassin with the bottle. He unleashes his shockwave skill, slamming the clown into the floor. And with that one hit, Metsu is down for the count. Grabbing his broken sword, Yuri asks Poncho about a good weapon shop. Looking at his half-wrecked tavern, the wolf is in total shock. Yuri quickly apologizes for the mess. Meanwhile, Zack was watching. Seeing Poncho was alive annoyed him, so he quickly slipped away. Yuri arrives at what's supposed to be a well-known weapon shop. At least that's according to the info Poncho gave him. Inside, a knight is already in the middle of a complaint. She's demanding to know what the blacksmith will do about her busted sword. The dwarf tells her to be quiet. The redhead snaps that the sword she just bought broke. She also warns him not to take that tone with her. After getting such a shoddy weapon, she declares she isn't leaving. She's going to wait right there until she gets a proper answer. Yuri sighs, wondering if he just walked into another problem. The blacksmith tries to offer the girl some compensation for it, but she's annoyed and says she doesn't want it fixed. She wants a replacement. But Nugo says a decent weapon is impossible to get. As they argue, our hero uses his analysis skill on the broken sword. He pipes up saying the blacksmith's skill isn't the issue. It looks like the materials are low quality. The girl Rico asks who he is. Nugo the dwarf remarks that Yuri seems to have a good eye for this stuff. The blacksmith explains they once used top-tier ore from the northern mines, but lately only poor-quality ore has been available. A nasty golem has taken over, forcing them to make do with what they can get. But at this rate, the shop was doomed to close. It seemed shutting down was the only option. Spotting swords in a bucket, Yuri grabs one and drops a pouch of coins on the counter. He tells the blacksmith he needs this sword to take down the golem. Hugo is taken aback. The knight Rico remarks that fighting a golem with a sword is unheard of. Yuri says it's all in how you use it, and after he wins, he'll use the ore to forge a new blade. Rico heads out of the shop with the boy, introducing herself and asking for his adventurer license just to be safe. Yuri obliges, presenting the license. Seeing he's F rank, Rico wonders if this kid has a death wish, since that's the lowest rank. She explains that people call F-rankers potato diggers since they're always covered in dirt and he had no chance against a golem. Confused, Yuri just asks why she's so worked up. After all, his death wouldn't have anything to do with her. Riko flushes, claiming she just hates seeing people die needlessly, so she's coming along. He reluctantly agrees. A short while later, Riko announces their arrival at the northern mine. As they approach the entrance, a huge rock golem emerges. Wielding a sledgehammer, Riko declares she'll make quick work of their foe. She rushes the golem, telling Yuri to watch and learn. The golem swings, but she deftly dodges and scales its massive arm. From there, she leaps over it, landing a powerful blow on the monster. The fight rages on as she hammers the creature with repeated strikes. Meanwhile, Yuri just watches, thinking the golem is strong and tough, but incredibly slow. Riko's strategy is to circle it and keep striking from behind. After landing several hits, she returns to Yuri, boasting that this is child's play for her. She explains that a golem's weak spot is its back. But just as she's about to say more, the creature hurls an energy-infused boulder right at them. Riko freezes, but our hero steps in, slicing the boulder in two. He then unleashes a flurry of cuts, obliterating the golem. Riko can only stare, completely stunned and bewildered. She stammers, asking how he did that. Yuri just replies, "I cut it." Following Yuri deeper into the cave, Riko insists that bypassing a golem's back to slice it with a sword is impossible. She argues that he just got lucky this time until he finally says he gets it. Just then, a whole horde of stone golems blocks their path. Yuri readies his sword. "Since I was just lucky," he says, "I'll test my luck again." Meanwhile, just before this happened, Zach's group had been watching. One of them is in disbelief that the kid actually sliced a golem. Zach seethes with anger, swearing he'll never forgive Azawa. Suddenly, a figure appears, noting they seem to have a problem. The masked man holds a crystal ball as Zach demands to know who he is. Back in the cave, the main character is effortlessly destroying golems. Riko's mind is completely blown. With the last golem defeated, Azawa figures he's cleared most of the threats. Grabbing the iron ore, he thinks this should be plenty for crafting new weapons. He spots a bag of magic stones and decides they'll be a nice gift for Lime. Riko can't help but ask just who Azawa really is. He just smiles, saying he's nothing special, just an F-rank adventurer. She tells him to be serious, but Azawa thinks to himself that it's the truth. He really is F-rank. Suddenly, a voice cuts in, shocked he beat the golem solo. It's Zach yelling that Azawa's getting on his last nerve. Our main character blinks in surprise as Riko notes they don't look very friendly. He realizes they're here for him and knows he can't drag Riko into this. So he asks Lion to get her somewhere safe. Lion instantly obeys, growing in size so Riko can hop on before whisking her away. With Riko safe, Azawa casually asks Zach what his problem is. He can't recall doing anything to earn this hate, which just makes the guy laugh. Zach fumes that no matter how he tries to crush Azawa, the boy acts completely unfazed. He claims Azawa has now invaded his turf and is just the worst. Then he orders his goons to attack, vowing to finally crush the boy. The main character effortlessly takes down all three of them. But they pop right back up like zombies and manage to grab onto Azawa. Azawa's a bit spooked. He was sure he'd knocked them out for good. He quickly figures it out they're under some kind of berserk status effect. He can see it's affecting Zach too. Charging up his magic, Zach shouts that this is the end. He unleashes a massive gust of wind right at his opponent. Our hero knows he can't move, and a direct hit would be really bad. The blast hits, but when the smoke clears, Zach sees that Azawa has vanished. The boy is now casting wind magic as a system window confirms he's learned a new spell. Azawa fires it back, sending all of them flying with one powerful gust. Zach's whole crew is knocked aside. Azawa casually mentions he learned a new spell. Just from watching someone else use it, he's about to declare it over, but then he senses something else. He turns and asks, "Who's there?" From a dark portal, the one controlling Zach finally appears. He seems surprised that only Azawa could sense his presence. The masked man says Azawa surpassed his expectations, which puts our hero on guard. He introduces himself with a flourish, Nero Nightmare. Azawa realizes Nero must have used a wind barrier to block his last spell. This new guy is definitely skilled. Nero praises Azawa, saying it's no wonder these weaklings couldn't touch him, and so he offers the boy two simple choices. Either join his cause or die right here. Looking at Nero, our main character gets a strange feeling he can't quite place. There's just something eerily familiar about this man. Then a memory from his past life surfaces, of people in those exact same robes. He suddenly recalls flashes from his past life of people wearing those exact same robes. As the Sword Saint Yuri remembered the pain of joining an order just like Neros, Yuri then asks if Nero is one of the numbers, which startles the young man. Nero says only members know about the numbers, so Yuri had to be one of them. He demands Yuri show his hand as proof. A number should be on the back of his hand, just like his own. Nero then reveals the number 928 branded on his hand. Yuri nods, recognizing the mark, stating that all members were numbered, and a lower number meant much greater combat power. As Yuri slowly removes his own gauntlet, he wondered what number he had and if it even remained on this new body. When Nero sees the number 0 on his hand, he's in total disbelief. He says that number was permanently retired 500 years ago. Yuri was also confused. He knew 1 was the strongest, so what did 0 mean? Nero questions if Yuri thought he could trick him with a counterfeit number. He then charges right at his opponent. As punishment for the mockery, he declares he will kill Yuri. The masked man becomes a blur, circling Yuri at incredible speeds. Nero taunts him, asking if he can even follow his movements. But when Nero strikes, Yuri dodges with absolute ease. Yuri calmly notes, this is the fastest foe he has met in this life. Nero is baffled by the easy dodge as our main character inspects his weapon. Seeing the blade is poisoned, he decides to keep his distance. He launches a fireball, planning to slow his enemy down. After deflecting the blast, Nero scoffs at the simple attack, but Yuri says it was just a diversion. A hidden wind blade suddenly shoots out from the smoke. Nero barely dodges, realizing he'd completely lowered his guard. He compliments the distraction, admitting Yuri is tougher than he thought, completely unaware that his feet are now frozen solid. The assassin panics, finding himself totally trapped. Before he can react, a powerful water vortex slams right into him. With Nero nearly frozen over, Yuri begins enchanting his own sword. Nero desperately begs for him to stop trying to bargain for his life, but in a flash, Yuri strikes with his newly enchanted blade. Looking at his frozen foe, Yuri vows never to be chained down again. In this new life, he was absolutely determined to live freely. Later at the weapon shop, Muga the dwarf celebrates his latest creation. He proudly presents a new sword, and our main character thanks him warmly. The stats look amazing. The young man thinks this sword will last for a good while. Yuri notes the fine materials used, asking Muga if he was sure about this. The cheerful dwarf smiles, saying it's no problem since Yuri helped him get back to work. Yuri sincerely thanks him for the very generous gift. Walking away, he can't believe he got all this just for beating one little golem. It felt like a dream. He was finally free from the pain of being a number. Yuri notes that with a new sword and skill, everything was finally sorted out. Just then, 2 familiar voices call his name. It's Rico and Armet, and they want a word with him. The girls trade confused glances, unsure what to do. Armet blurts out, asking if Yuri prefers well-endowed women. Rico quickly denies it, insisting their relationship wasn't like that. He just ignores them and walks off, thinking being rank F is getting interesting. At the guild, the attendant asks what kind of quest he's after. He replies he wants a high-reward monster hunting mission. He explains it's to buy more of Lime's favorite magic stones. Hearing that she says she has the perfect job for him, a goblin hunt, Yuri agrees instantly, but the attendant mentions a special condition. As a rank F adventurer, he's required to join a party for this quest. Yuri mentions he already saw the recruitment board, and a team was looking for one more for the goblin quest. Nearby, a girl urges someone named Lid to hurry. A Kager girl adds that the 3 of them should be plenty for goblins. Yuri approaches their group, saying he saw their notice on the recruitment board. Lid looks annoyed to see a guy, but confirms she was waiting for him. His equipment impresses her, and she notes he meets the requirements. Lid asks for his license and starts to inspect it carefully. Suddenly furious, she throws the license back at him, telling him to get lost and calling him rank F trash. She storms off with her party, saying it was a waste of time and that they'll handle it themselves. Yuri is confused, wondering what he did wrong. Party finding is harder than he thought. He wonders what to do now, as he'd much prefer to go solo, but the rules for the quest were a problem. Just then, Rico shows up and asks Yuri what he's doing. After he explains everything, she says she gets it and adds that it's a sad situation. Yuri thanks her, saying without her, he couldn't have accepted this mission. She thanks him too, since she almost joined Lid's party. Rico mentions the northern forest goblins have already been cleared out, so they'll head to a spot west of the mountains, a 2-hour walk away. Yuri notes that it's pretty far. Rico agrees, warning other adventurers might get there first if they're slow. She wishes they had a ride, and Yuri reveals he knows someone who can help. He says he's counting on Lime as the little monster begins to glow. It then transforms into a cockatrice, leaving Rico completely stunned. As they soar through the air on Lime's back, she asks what this is. Yuri calmly calls it a vehicle, but Rico says it's far from normal. Before long, the 2 of them arrive at the Western Highlands. Yuri thanks Lime. Rico, still shaken, wonders how he's so calm after that speed. Then she spots a nearby lake. Rico remarked on the lovely view, and Yuri agreed it was a peaceful spot. She playfully touched the lake, noticing how clear the water was. But Yuri sensed something zipping straight towards Rico. Just as an arrow was about to hit her, Yuri snatched it out of the air. Riko apologized as Yuri realized the goblins' trap attack when they let their guard down. Scanning the trees, Yuri counted more than 20 goblins hiding above. Every single one of them was armed with a bow. A volley of arrows flew at Yuri, but he deflected them all with his sword. Riko broke into a sweat, thinking to herself how amazing Yuri was. A few goblins dropped down, slowly advancing on Yuri. Sword ready, he said he'd end this now, but Riko told him to wait. Drawing her own sword, she asked if she could handle this herself. She was a real adventurer after all and needed to fight honorably. With newfound resolve, Riko charged the goblins. Stabbing forward, she declared she wouldn't be a burden this time. And so she continued to fight bravely against her foes. Watching her, Yuri thought she was a truly incredible adventurer. Still, there were too many. Casting a spell, Yuri told her to hold the front line. A blue aura enveloped Riko, and she instantly felt much stronger. Her body felt light as she tore through goblin after goblin. She could hardly believe her own strength. Though Riko was confused, Yuri just told her to handle the enemies on the ground. His attention then turned to the goblins still up in the trees. They fired at Yuri, who said he'd take the archers. He then unleashed a magic slash, blasting them away. Once they finished them all, Riko couldn't believe they had beaten so many goblins. Just the two of them alone. But then she immediately asked what on earth Yuri had done to her body. As Lime absorbed the monsters, Yuri explained it was just a normal enhancement spell. Riko shot back that there was nothing normal about it. Staring at him, she knew this boy was something else entirely. Suddenly, Riko stumbled. Yuri rushed to her, asking if she was okay. She said she was hit during the fight, but insisted it was just a shallow cut. Yuri, however, noticed the telltale sign of a poison status. He explained their weapons must have been coated in poison. Riko realized these goblins were unusually intelligent. Yuri then wondered if Lime could suck the poison out of her. The slime hopped onto her wound and immediately began to cleanse it. Yuri gained new spells as Riko said she felt better thanking Lime for the help. But Yuri stopped her, telling her to wait just a moment. He then used his newly acquired healing magic to soothe her pain. Seeing this, the young warrior was even more amazed. She asked him where he possibly learned such rare magic. Yuri admitted he'd just gotten it, which baffled her since holy magic is the rarest spell of all. Changing the subject, she said they must find the nest. Smart goblins meant there had to be a boss. Riko figured the goblins wouldn't make finding their nest easy, but Yuri piped up, saying he knew the location. He explained that he'd seen some of the creatures escape, so he tagged them with a piece of lime. The little monster then became an arrow, pointing the way. The two followed it through the woods until they found a cave entrance. Yuri noted that Lime was signaling this was the place. But Riko urged caution, saying a goblin nest would be swarming with enemies. Yuri remembered that the last goblin lord also had tons of minions, and he doubted the same magic he used before would work now. Yuri wondered if they should just blow up the whole cave, but Riko said they'd have no proof of their hunt then. Just then, Lid arrived with his party. He thanked Yuri for the directions, calling him an F-rank potato digger. Riko asked Yuri if he knew these guys, but he casually replied that he didn't. Lid got annoyed, reminding him they met at the fountain that morning. Yuri then remembered seeing someone tailing them from behind. He just never guessed it would be these people. Lid said it wasn't bad for a potato digger, and even though he outranked Yuri, he had to admit the guy was pretty good. But then Lid tried to act tough, telling Yuri to go home since the goblins ahead were too much for him. As he entered the cave, Lid told Yuri to go back to pulling weeds. Riko realized this was that party Yuri had mentioned. She was so glad she hadn't joined them. As they entered the nest too, Riko noted that Lid was right about one thing. There were going to be a lot of enemies ahead. For that very reason, they needed to move with caution. Lid's two companions fawned over him as the jerk told them not to worry since he was there. Yuri found it odd they'd gone so deep without meeting any goblins. He was wondering what was happening when a mysterious fog rolled in. After a quick look, Yuri confirmed it was the enemy's magic. While Riko complained she couldn't see Lid, told her to chill because he was there. The main character realized there were way more monsters than before. They were using the fog to hide and set up a surprise attack. Yuri yelled a warning just as several creatures charged them, but the duo repelled the attacks with their swords, cutting down a few monsters. Riko confirmed there were a lot of them, but they were still just goblins. Yuri saw their strategy was based on numbers and simple coordinated attacks. However, something about the situation felt off. Feeling confident, Lid bragged that these guys were a piece of cake. His two companions were impressed right until a huge blue creature appeared before him. Lid wondered if it was also a goblin, then said that even though it was bigger, it would be easy to beat, so he charged in to attack. He swung his sword at the massive enemy, but his blade shattered and the irritated monster grabbed Lid by the hair. It then kneed him in the face. As he went flying, the boy whined about his handsome face before crashing. Terrified, Lid scrambled away from the fight, screaming for help. He even ran right past the two pretty girls who were with him. Just then, a blue goblin grabs the two girls by the neck. The monster gets ready to eat them as the girls scream for help. Instantly, Azawa rips the beast's head off and asks if the young women are all right. They're completely stunned. Yuri tells Riko to look after them. At that moment, more elite goblins advance on our hero. Azawa realizes these are bigger. They must have used a berserk mode to power up. Using powerful wind magic, he decides he'll end this quickly. He hurls his opponents into the air, sending them crashing down hard. Suddenly, an elite goblin shaman appears, admitting Yuri is pretty strong. Seeing a talking monster, Yuri immediately assumes it's the boss. The shaman claims the boy is cruel for killing innocent goblins. He adds that his fallen brothers are now eager for some revenge. Dark magic begins to swirl around the monster's lifeless bodies. The purple magic surrounds Yuri, paralyzing him completely. The shaman sneers that the goblins were sacrifices for his dark spell. Yuri realizes he can't move and his magic is also being drained away. This is bad. His vision is already starting to get blurry. Riko is caught in the magic too as the shaman laughs that it's all over. But Yuri suddenly acquires the curse, easily dispersing it from his body. The goblin is terrified as Yuri prepares to use that same magic on him. While casting the spell, Yuri says the magic will return to its master. The spirits of all the goblins used by the shaman now rush toward him. They slam into him with all that dark magic. The monster then begins to melt away, leaving only a skeleton. Watching this, Yuri comments that the shaman was the real monster. He was the one the goblins hated the most. Sometime later, fishing by the sea, Yuri thinks about how peaceful it is. The boy recalls that in his first life in Japan, he never had this kind of free time. Perhaps his desire for freedom stems from his past life experiences. Musul and Emily run over, gushing about how charming he was when he saved them. Yuri remembers them being in total shock when he was leaving the cave, but it seems they've made a full recovery. Emily asks if she can help, and Yuri thinks they seem much friendlier than before, so he asks the girls to put some bait on his fishing hook. When they open the nearby box, they are horrified by all the worms. The two immediately run off screaming, leaving Yuri totally confused. Turning to his line, he sees a huge whirlpool forming right there. He realizes he's hooked something really big. The young man quickly enchants his fishing rod with magic, and with a mighty yank, he pulls a giant shark monster out of the water. The cornered creature lunges at Yuri, who just draws his sword and cuts it in half. After splitting the shark, he gains a new fishing skill. Suddenly a voice calls out, "Covered in shark blood." A new girl named Armet wonders what in the world that was. The young girl promptly slips in a puddle of the monster's blood. Yuri simply asks what she was even doing there. Phil fires back that he should be the one asking that question. He tells Yuri to get ready, because it's training time. Arnett explains that adventurers have mandatory monthly training, or their licenses get revoked. Arnett sees the problem, so she agrees to go along with him. With that, she grabs his arm and starts pulling him along. But the girl slips again as the sharks close in, so Yuri says they need to handle this first. A bit later, at the Adventurers Guild, they both head for the training area. The crowd makes Arnett nervous, and Yuri wonders what kind of training they'll be forced into. Suddenly, a woman with purple hair notes that everyone has finally arrived. Asa lands on the ground, announcing the start of training for F-rank adventurers. The other adventurers seem to know Asa, so Yuri asks if she's famous. Arnett looks surprised he doesn't know. She explains that's Asa ranked 10 in Class B. She is also the youngest B-rank adventurer in history. Annoyed, Asa says she is here to train the lowly F-ranks and turn that trash into something usable. The other F-rankers are insulted, calling the girl a total brat. One of them even grabs her by the collar. The adventurer warns Asa not to get cocky just because she is a kid. But in a flash, the man is sent flying without a chance to react. After that display, Asa says she does not like to waste time. So she will be teaching all the F-rankers through some hands-on training. She then orders the trash to come at her, and several adventurers charge right in. But her arm cracks like a whip, taking out every adventurer in just seconds. She then glares down at them with total disdain. Awed, Arnati whispers that is a B-ranker for you, just as Asa turns to her and Yuri. The girl notes that Yuri instantly saw fighting her was pointless after gauging her strength. And because of that, she thinks he shows a lot of promise. Yuri thinks to himself, that's not exactly how it was. But before he can say anything, Asa declares that she likes him. So she is giving them a special fencing lesson, leaving Yuri and Arnate totally confused. Now in a forest, Arnate asks if the lesson is already over since they are just standing around. Asa replies that she is basically correct. She says that F-rank adventurers are just fools who think they are strong. They get overconfident just by becoming adventurers, so she teaches them a reality check. In other words, Yuri and Phil were the only two who acted differently. That is why she can properly assess their true abilities. She stops at a spot in the forest and says this is where they will begin. Yuri asks what she plans to do out here, but she just tells him to watch. The girl says she will show them an example, drawing her sword and slicing into a giant tree. With that one powerful strike, the tree crashes to the ground. Arnette is terrified, realizing this is the power of a B-rank adventurer. Heisa turns to them and says, "All right, now it is your turn." This just makes Arnette even more panicked. She says there is absolutely no way she can do that. The B-ranker says everyone starts out that way, but the key is to keep on challenging yourself. The moment Arnette cuts that tree, she'll get the intermediate sword skill, so the girl accepts and steps right up. She lands a few blows on the trunk, but nothing really happens. Phil then gathers his full power, but only ends up hurting his hands on the tree. Aisha says it wasn't a bad first try, then declares that Yuri is next. Arnette cheers for Yuri, who sees this as a perfect opportunity. He can finally use the advanced sword skills he knows. He walks up to the tree, noting that even with a borrowed weapon, he'll do his best not to break it. He gives the sword a casual swing, but it creates a shockwave that splits the tree and tears up the ground. The boy is just happy he didn't break the sword this time. He brags about his good control right before seeing the messy result. Aisha is in total disbelief, unable to process what just happened. Yuri just says he did what she asked, wondering if something was wrong. Sweating, she insists it's perfectly normal, though Arnette clearly disagrees. Aisha even lies, claiming she once took out a whole forest with one hit. A little while later, Aisha declares it's time for magic training in a perfect rocky area. A bit annoyed, she turns around asking if Yuri has any magic experience. He just replies, not really. Hearing this, the smug girl assumes he's a total newbie, making Yuri wonder why she's so happy. Excited, she declares that as his senior, she'll give him a demonstration. And in that moment, she imbues her sword with fire magic, blasting the rocks into a huge explosion. Yuri seems unfazed, but Arnette calls it incredible. Aisha says for a B rank, it's just basic stuff. Yuri thinks it's an amazing spell with power on a totally different level for a B rank. Aisha tells Yuri he's next, adding that the key to magic is imagination. Taking her words to heart, Yuri wonders if this is what she means by imagination. He then creates a gigantic sword made of pure fire. Yuri immediately launches his attack, which blows a huge chunk off a mountain. Arnette and Aisha are completely stunned. They then realize that mountain debris is raining down from the sky. The girls hug each other in fear while Arnette asks Yuri what to do. The boy uses his water magic to form an ice wall, protecting them from the falling rocks. After witnessing all this, Aisha asks who the boy really is. He calmly answers that he's just an F-rank adventurer, which makes her faint on the spot. From a safe distance, two figures are watching one, noting his skill is as expected for someone who beat number 928. The hooded figure asks number 230 if he thinks he could defeat him, but the red demon just calls it a stupid question. 230 is certain that someone like him would never lose to a mere human. Back in the tavern, the Wolfman asks if Aisha is a training instructor, and Yuri asks if he knows her. The young man says he was in Aisha's party once, and while she was a handful, she was incredibly strong. Pancho notes she never got a big head. She busted her tail to reach B rank, and now that she's not a rookie anymore, she's ready to act like a real pro. The tavern door opens, and before Pancho can say hello, a red-haired man asks for someone named Yuri Azawa. The other customers start whispering, wondering why he's here. Our hero introduces himself, but Pancho quickly tells him to mind his manners. The wolf explains that he's Roses Biscotti, also known as Roses the Iron Mass, a top-tier A-rank adventurer. Roses waves off the formalities, and Pancho notes it's been a long time. Sitting by our hero, Roses says Yuri is just as Asia described, young and fearless. He then asks for help on an A-rank mission to slay an evil dragon. Hearing this, Pancho is shocked, and our main character looks confused. Pancho tells Roses to stop joking. Azawa may be strong, but he's still F-rank. But Roses insists that he is serious. Meeting Yuri today proved it. The kid has the power of an A-ranker. The wolf adds that Yuri refused a B-rank promotion, but calling him A-rank is a stretch. Yuri then asks what kind of monster this evil dragon really is. Roses explains that it's a terrifying beast, one that could destroy an entire nation in a single moment. Just a few days ago, it appeared over the Western Highlands, so a special guild team is being formed. Roses asks if Yuri will lend his strength, but a sharp voice suddenly objects. An elf appears, declaring it's madness to include some unknown guy on the team. She tells Roses his judgment is completely off. Asking an F-ranker for help is a disgrace to someone of his stature. Yuri asks who she is. She introduces herself as Clodowell B ranks number 3. The dark elf explains that she's heard of Yuri and assumes he used some dirty tricks to get noticed. She refuses to acknowledge his skills, saying an F-ranker can't join her party. Noticing she's also on the mission, Azawa calmly replies he hasn't even agreed to go yet. But Roses tells Chloe to knock it off. He says rank isn't everything and that Chloe judges people too quickly. The elf then declares that if that's the case, she'll test him right now. She challenges our hero to a small game of controlling a fork with magic. She says it's not serious, just a little bit of fun. If he can send back the fork she throws, she'll acknowledge his abilities. Chloe adds that if Yuri can't do it, she won't let a potato digger like him join her prestigious group. As she stands, Yuri thinks he's not sure why, but he wants to try. The two adventurers face off as Chloe gets ready. Roses looks annoyed, but the elf just announces she is throwing the fork at him, with the fork flying right at him. Yuri realizes she's incredibly fast. That must be the power of B Rank's number 3 model. But Yuri stops the fork with just one finger, leaving Chloe totally speechless. He calmly aims the fork back at Chloe, asking to return it. With a flick, the fork zips past her head, slamming into the wall with a poof. The stunned elf realizes if that had been on target, she would be a goner. He didn't just block her magic, he sent it right back at her. Roses cheers, announcing that their final member has just been decided. Piscotti chimes in saying he's counting on Yuri for tomorrow. Yuri just sighs, deciding to roll with it, and apologizes for wrecking the tavern again. Later on, a dirt road, Roses is at the reins of a small cart. He apologizes to the group, explaining this was the only carriage he could find. Yuri is surprised to see Aisha is also on this mission. She smirks, saying she recommended him and will show him the difference in their power. Chloe, still grumpy, starts judging Aisha's choice. She scoffs that a rank B shouldn't be vouching for a lowly rank F. Aisha fires back that Chloe started a fight she couldn't win, sparking a huge argument. Looking at the 2 rank Bs and 1 rank A, Yuri feels a little out of place, wondering if he really belongs here. Changing the subject, Roses asks Yuri if he has a slime. Yuri says yes, introducing his little companion. The knight is impressed, noting that tamers are a rare breed. But Chloe calls taming a slime useless. Right then, the creature hops onto her shoulder. As she tries to shoo it off, Yuri cheerfully warns her that Lime seems to like her. Suddenly, Yuri senses danger and yells for everyone to jump out of the cart just as a fiery blast hits them. They all dive to safety. Chloe asks if that's the evil dragon, but Roses says they're just common rank sea dragons. Yuri realizes they're all being controlled. Roses gives orders he and Aisha take the right while Yuri and Chloe handle the left. Yuri points out that the enemies are airborne, so they'll need someone to draw their fire up front, while Chloe prepares her magic, but she snaps back, telling him not to give her orders. She says Roses may trust him, but she sure doesn't. Declaring she'll handle them herself, she begins to cast a spell. The elf unleashes her thorn cannon, which pursues the dodging dragons, but she confidently declares that escape is impossible. And just like that, the magic strikes several dragons, freezing them solid. As they crash down, Chloe boasts it was too easy. Yuri thinks he really wasn't needed. Just then, Aisha warns that another enemy is on its way. A rank B meteor dragon appears. Chloe wonders if this is the leader. Yuri notices this one is also being controlled by someone. Aisha declares they need to end this now, preparing a spell with Chloe. They both fire energy blasts, but the dragon's fireball blocks them completely. Aisha and Chloe can't believe their eyes. That's when Yuri gives an order to Lime. The slime leaps up, swallows the massive fireball, and digests it in a flash. Aisha and Chloe are stunned, but then someone uses Lime as a springboard into the air. Roses rushes the dragon with his giant shield, yelling, "Iron Roar!" His Iron Destroyer skill slams into the beast, making it stagger. Roses then shouts, "Yuri, it's all yours," who begins charging his blade with magic. Yuri draws his sword, dashes in, and with one clean slice splits the dragon in 2. Yuri praises Lime, but Issa scoffs that it was no big deal, and Clue calls it a lucky shot. Rosa points out a new problem: their horse is injured. Aisha warns them they must arrive by sunset, but it was still 2 hours away from there. Yuri considers transforming Lime, but there are too many people to carry, so instead he approaches the horse and channels his holy magic. Stunned, Rosa's team rides on toward their destination. Clue mutters that she thought that magic was a myth, while Aisha notes the horse is now faster. The boy explains that while healing the animal, he also used enhancement magic to boost its strength. Rosa is told that just past the trees ahead are the Western Highlands. The party rides on only to find a section of the forest completely scorched. Among the ruins are the charred remains of monsters and animals. True to form, Clue and Issa start bad-mouthing the dead creatures. Roses tunes them out, noting the magical energy is getting stronger. He warns everyone to stay sharp, the monster must be close. Clue retorts that with an A rank and 2 B ranks, no dragon stands a chance. Off to the side, Yuri spots a pile of dragon bones. Issa wonders if that's the evil dragon, and Clue asks if it died before they arrived. But Yuri knows instantly, it's still alive. Roses orders everyone to get ready. Just then, the evil dragon rises. The team readies for battle as Roses yells that the creature is coming. Suddenly, the dragon lets out a roar, freezing the entire party. Yuri realizes the roar itself is paralyzing them. He's actually impressed. Roses just shouts, "What kind of attack is that?" Issa feels the intense pressure, but thinks he can still fight it. Just then, a figure appears on the mountaintop, muttering that today's adventurers are as pathetic as he thought. It's Zark Poten number 230. Surprised Yuri Azawa came right to him. Poten warns Yuri not to get arrogant for beating Nero, who was a low-ranking number. Zark boasts that at number 230, he's leagues above Yuri. With a simple command to die, he sends the evil dragon to attack. Yuri knows this guy is from the numbers, likely here for revenge. The dragon's claws are about to tear into the helpless adventurers, but suddenly proving he can still move, Yuri breaks free and slices off the wyvern's claws with his blade. Not stopping there, he leaps high into the air, dashing up its arm and cutting its head to pieces. The mighty dragon collapses completely dismantled. Yuri's whole team can only stare in disbelief. Clue still can't accept his strength, but Zark just congratulates him, asking if he's ready for round 2. Just then, a purple aura surrounds the dragon as it roars back to life, lunging at Yuri. While blocking the attack, Yuri realizes the monster has revived. He cuts off the dragon's claws, but they just grow right back. The beast lands a heavy blow, sending Yuri crashing to the ground. Parrying another strike, he thinks that his attacks are useless against its regeneration. At this rate, he'll just run out of stamina. Then it clicks, this evil dragon is basically an undead creature. So the young hero switches tactics using advanced holy magic. The monster writhes in pain. Yuri thinks how his past life knowledge really comes in handy. Suddenly Zark appears from behind, aiming a surprise attack. But Yuri manages to block it just in the nick of time. The demon grins, saying, "This is getting fun," and declares the final round is starting. He unleashes a flurry of punches, forcing our hero onto the defensive. Yuri decides to counter, imbuing his sword with magic and slashing at Zark. Even while blocking, Zark gets a small cut on his arm. The demon scoffs that Yuri is slow, then powers up his arm for a sneak attack. But Yuri uses his incredible speed to zip behind his opponent instantly. We see Zark's punch carved a path of pure destruction. Yuri notes that Zark has immense power, but his large size makes him a bit slow. In a flash, Zark appears before him, asking, "What's wrong? You can't win by just dodging," Zark yells as Yuri neatly sidesteps another blow. The demon then launches a volley of sharp stones at high speed. He taunts Yuri, saying that 500 years of napping has made him soft. Zark jokes that calling him a zero was an understatement as Yuri spins his sword to deflect everything. Holding a giant boulder, Zark says he's been waiting for this rematch. Because of that, he tells the young man not to disappoint him. He hurls the stone, but Yuri leaps back and slices it clean in half. As he lands, our main character thinks to himself that Zark is right. Just playing defense won't work, and fighting with only a sword is not enough. In that case, it was time to use that. So Yuri politely asks Lime to get the others to a safe distance. The cute creature obeys, hopping right off his shoulder. Zark charges forward, shouting that Yuri has no time to worry about his friends. He declares that the only one he cares about is Yuri. The demon explains that since their fight 500 years ago, he's only been training, and now he has this brand new impenetrable body. He then asks how it feels to be cornered by an opponent he once defeated. Our hero, meanwhile, is calmly chanting spells, forming a huge spear of fire. Zark looks terrified, yelling that Yuri should only be able to use a sword. But our main character just smiles, saying he doesn't remember the old days very well. In Yuri's hands, a massive spear made of pure flame takes shape. A stunned Zark shouts that Yuri is supposed to be a swordsman, not a mage. Our hero just apologizes politely, saying he must have forgotten the rules. With that, Yuri lunges forward, his blazing spear pointed right at his foe. And in that moment, he unleashes a powerful strike, leaving his opponent utterly defenseless. Zark panics at the raw power, crying out that he's helpless as the blow sends him flying. While turning to ash, the creature can't believe he's losing to someone like Yuri again. Azawa sheathes his sword and his massive strike detonates, wiping out number 203. Watching from inside Lime, the boys' party is absolutely speechless. Azawa calmly notes that his magic control seems to be getting better than before. Roses cheers for the boy, guessing the evil dragon had some kind of enchantment. That ability brought its power close to a rank S threat. Yuri still wasn't sure if he was actually that powerful. He figured he only won because he happened to know holy magic. Roses tells Yuri that he shouldn't let anyone know about his holy magic. Yuri asks him why that is. Roses explains that in this world, holy magic is incredibly rare and precious. If word got out, entire nations would come after Yuri. The boy agrees, thinking it's definitely better to keep this a secret. Yuri then remembers he got an item from the evil dragon. He pulls out a giant magic stone and asks how they should split it. Roses is stunned by the sheer size of the magic stone. He admits he's shocked, having never seen one so huge and pure. He then insists that Yuri should be the one to keep it. The prodigy asks if he's sure, but Asia and Chloe quickly agree with the decision. Roses then warns the boy to be extremely careful with it. If used improperly, that stone could shift the world's balance of power. Walking back to town, the boy feels that his magic and the stone are just more problems. All he ever really wanted was to live a peaceful life. The next morning at the inn, Yuri is woken up by some noise from Lime. He wonders if it's morning, then sees a small, blue-haired girl beside him. Totally confused, the boy asks himself what on earth is going on. The little blue-haired girl wakes up, sees Yuri, and immediately gives him a big hug. The main character freezes for a moment, then asks if she's Lime, and she happily nods. Yuri guesses this happened because he fed Lime the dragon's magic stone, though, as he recalls, nothing seemed to have changed right away. Lime then tries to wish Yuri good morning, but adorably messes up the words. The young man is quite impressed by her attempt to speak. Just then, the little girl stands up, trying to walk on her new feet. Yuri tells her to stop, worried that it's too dangerous for her, but she doesn't listen, takes a step, and tumbles right over. The boy thinks that it's good for Lime to challenge herself. Still, he wasn't so sure if becoming human was the right path. So, he gently strokes her hair, telling her she doesn't have to copy them. He smiles and says that she's already charming just the way she is. Hearing this makes her incredibly happy, and she transforms back into a slime. She then hops right onto his shoulder, content. Yuri tells Lime they have a mission today, and the little slime cheers with excitement. Over at the Adventurers Guild, the main character starts checking the quest board. It was the same old quests, just goblins or wolves. He figured Lime was getting tired of the menu and the missions were getting boring. Just then, a stranger's voice called out Yuri's name. The young man stumbled through an introduction, mentioning he was 8th in Class C and known as a wandering rare monster hunter. His name was Dutch. Dutch then showed off Lehman his pet E-rank rat. Yuri realized this guy was also a monster tamer like him. Dutch asked if Azawa was looking for a quest and offered to team up for the day, but Yuri politely declined the offer. Still, Dutch pressed on, saying not every quest is on the board. He then brought up something called personal missions. Yuri disliked being hired, but the board had no decent quests. For Lime's dinner, trying something new might be worth it. With that, he and Dutch came to an agreement. Yuri accepted the proposal, which clearly delighted the young man. As they rode a cart through the woods, Dutch mentioned he thought Azawa was a novice. Yuri confirmed it, saying he had much to learn and would appreciate Dutch's guidance. Dutch proudly agreed to give him some solid advice as his new senior. For his first tip, he leaned in closer. He asked why Azawa contracted a slime, which left the boy a little confused. Dutch explained that among all slimes, normal blue ones are the absolute weakest. Nobody ever chooses to tame one. The veteran urged Azawa to find a stronger monster, even offering his help. Glancing at his pet, Yuri turned down the idea, saying it wasn't needed because Lime seemed quite reliable. He was sure she would be a great asset on their adventure. Dutch laughed and told the boy not to kid himself. If he trusted a slime, he wasn't a real tamer and should just give up. Before Yuri could reply, a giant hawk swooped down, grabbing Dutch and yanking him into the air. The man immediately started screaming for help. So our hero had Lime become a cockatrice and fly up to save him. Not getting what was happening, Dutch screamed his head off until Lime set him back in the cart. Still shaking, Dutch demanded to know what was going on since slimes don't transform. Yuri casually said it was a normal thing for his pet. But Dutch had just called blue slimes common monsters. A shocked Dutch yelled that common monsters can't do that. Changing the topic, Yuri asked where they were going anyway. Dutch reminded him their destination was the Dragon's Veil, a place tamers call a treasure trove. The mission was to capture a young dragon sleeping there. The tamer listed off monsters he'd caught like krakens, golden birds, and even a rainbow slime. He said only a handful of them exist in the world. Dutch bragged that by catching so many he'd earned his wandering rare monster hunter title. Yuri, truly impressed, said that was amazing to hear from Dutch. He felt honored to be on a quest with someone so skilled. Azawa then asked why he was still only ranked C despite all that. His skills. Yuri humbly replies that true masters often go unnoticed. Dutch warns him the dragon is usually incredibly fierce, but it's mating season so it's weaker. Plus, its offspring would sell for a fortune. He then points out they've arrived while chatting. This is the dragon's lair. He says to reach the dragon they'll need to cross that chasm. So he just tosses Lime, saying it's the little guy's turn. The slime makes it across, securing a rope so Dutch can follow. Dutch crosses over, giving a quick thanks to the little pet. Yuri praises Lime for their teamwork, saying they can't lag behind. Yuri feels the wind picking up. Flying over as a cockatrice seems too risky. And that's when our hero gets an idea. After making it across, Dutch turns around to call for Yuri. But what he sees is Yuri using Lime as a parachute riding the wind. Our main character lands gently, thanking his trusty slime. The tamer tells Yuri that his slime is definitely not normal. Just ahead, Dutch spots a pack of ranked kobolds. Dutch says brute force is a bad idea even if it works on these creatures, but he claims a true tamer wins monsters over with friendly communication. Yuri figures he gets it. He just gave Lime some jerky to befriend him. Dutch pulls out a weird ball boasting about his special homemade dumplings. He claims they can win over any monster. Yuri just stares horrified. Yuri asks if that's even edible, saying if anyone ate that, they would definitely get sick. Dutch chucks it at the monsters, asking them to be his friends. But the creatures sniff it, get furious, and charge right at them. The tamer freezes, so our hero steps up, deflecting the attacks with his sword. Then he shoots the monsters a terrifying glare, which completely terrifies them. In that instant, he sends Lime flying toward the kobolds. The little slime splits into 3 and zips toward the beasts. Lime latches onto their noses and starts a chat, and the monsters reply. After that, Yuri joins their little chat. Yuri tells Dutch the dragon kicked the kobolds out. It's just past this cliff. Dutch is stunned. They move on with Lime protecting him along the way. They finally reach the goal, and an annoyed Dutch asks what that was all about. They've reached the dragon's den, but a huge boulder blocks the entrance. He laughs, saying it's time for his trump card, then bites his finger. He tells Yuri to watch closely because this is his secret weapon. He draws a blood sigil and a rank C golem suddenly appears. The golem tries moving the stone blocking the entrance but fails. Dutch figures out the golem just isn't strong enough. Yuri tells Dutch to stand back, then unleashes a sword beam splitting the rock. Dutch wonders how a tamer could possibly use a sword technique. Balancing those skills isn't normal. He questions if Yuri is really a rank F. A system notification pops up, and it all clicks for Yuri. His past life memories are why he learns skills so fast. He just remembers being an ordinary rank F adventurer in his 3rd life. But he simply tells Dutch that he was just a rank F adventurer. However, Dutch isn't buying it since Yuri's skills weren't normal for a rank F. Just then, light footsteps echo from inside the dragon's cave. With a hand on his sword, Yuri warns that someone is coming. Aisha suddenly appears, vowing to stop any dragon hunters right there. But then the girl realizes it's Yuri. While Aisha seems relieved, Dutch is shocked to recognize the girl. Yuri asks why she is there, and she says the guild sent her to guard the dragon. She explains every part of a dragon is extremely valuable. So the guild restricts hunting to prevent the dragons from being wiped out. She'd even blocked the entrance to keep suspicious people out. She just never expected Yuri to show up and break through it. Yuri explains that he only came here to collect an egg, but Aisha says the guild never reported anything like that to her. Then she notices Dutch trying to slip away unnoticed. She asks Yuri if this old man tricked him, warning about shady hunters. Annoyed, the man flashes his license. He insists he's legit until Aisha calls him Dutch the Braggart. Yuri is confused, so Aisha starts to explain. Apparently, he's a troublemaker who faked stories to get to rank C. Yuri thinks his stories must have been pretty impressive, so he asks if everything Dutch said was a lie. The old man kneels, apologizing for the deceit, and swears he's a new man. Aisha tells Yuri to just forget the guy, but Yuri admits that Dutch taught him some very useful things, and he doesn't think the man is a bad person. Just then, both notice something, and Aisha tells Dutch they'll talk later. As Yuri draws his sword, he realizes that they're totally surrounded. More adventurers are hiding, and he assumes they're more shady hunters. Aisha calls out that Yuri can handle everyone on the left side. She also warns him not to use fire magic or he'll agitate the dragon. Yuri wishes he could use his sword, but the terrain is just too difficult. Thinking fast, the young man bites his thumb to draw a bit of blood. He lets it fall to the ground, saying he'll leave it to them. The kobolds from before appear and charge into battle. Aisha and Dutch are both totally shocked to see summoning magic, as Yuri summons even more creatures. The kobolds start taking down the thieving hunters one by one. Then Yuri realizes something's different. These creatures are obviously stronger than when he fought them last. A shocked Aisha says kobolds are usually rank D, but these are fighting at rank B level. Dutch explains a tamer boosts their monsters. They both started wondering about Aizawa's true strength. As the dragon hunters fled, one, yelling to evacuate Aisha, noticed a familiar mark on one of their backs. Yuri asked if something was wrong, but she quickly said it was nothing. Aisha then announced the situation had changed. She figured those hunters would return for the dragon. Because of that, she was heading into the cave. She asked for Yuri's help, and he agreed with Dutch, deciding to tag along too. Aisha warned Dutch not to provoke the dragon, saying a rank C adventurer was no match for it. He agreed. With that settled, the group ventured deeper inside. There they found a majestic rank B white dragon. Spotting the dragon's eggs, Dutch yelled, "Treasure!" and immediately dashed right for them. As he climbed, Dutch said that running would shame a monster hunter, so he'd just grab his prize and leave. But a powerful presence suddenly overwhelmed him. Facing the dragon, Dutch was petrified. The man tumbled right out of the nest. Yuri sensed the dragon's terrifying killing intent. It was the strongest aura he'd felt since reincarnating. Dutch begged Azawa to help him snatch an egg and run. Our hero then walked up to the dragon, meeting its gaze. He apologized, telling Dutch he simply couldn't help him. Dutch scoffed, asking if he was scared of the treasure right there. Yuri explained that he finally understood that even for monsters, their young are precious, making it wrong to take one. He turned away, offering one last apology to Dutch. Just then, the dragon settled back onto its nest. But out of nowhere, something struck the creature. The dragon awoke in a rage, shocking everyone there. Dutch could only wonder what had just happened. The group quickly realized they were facing the dragon hunters. The three hunters charged the dragon again, so Aisha and Yuri prepared to defend it. Suddenly, another hunter appeared, telling Aisha it had been quite a while. He called their meeting fate, but she recognized him immediately as Angus. Angus lunged with his sword, but Aisha neatly caught his weapon with her whip. The hunter guessed the guild sent her, knowing her strong sense of justice. However, this was a terrible mistake. He claimed her former comrades would stop her, and she was doomed to fail. He even threatened that she'd lose her rank, but as he backed away, she said he was the unlucky one. Her strange comment left Angus completely confused. At that moment, Yuri took down all three of the goons attacking the dragon. Seeing this, the hunter wondered how his men were beaten so instantly. What was going on? The main character was supposed to be just a tamer, but as Azawa moved toward his foe, the dragon's wing suddenly struck him. The main character managed to block the hit, but the enraged beast charged right at him. Confused, Yuri yelled, asking Angus what he did to the dragon. He revealed he had sprayed it with a monster stimulant. While running away, he hoped the kid would be totally crushed. And with that, the dragon slammed its massive paw down at Azawa. The blow connects, kicking up a cloud of dust. Dutch and Asa get worried, but Aang celebrates until he sees Yuri casually stopping the attack. Aang is shocked that weirdo is holding back a dragon's attack with his bare hands. Yuri starts to connect with the dragon, asking if it can hear his voice. He tells the dragon it's okay now and there's nothing to fear. The creature seems to relax and ceases its attack on Yuri. He then reassures the beast that it's all alright. A system window pops up, advanced taming skill acquired. Petting his new friend, Yuri figures the dragon was just scared and the drug only amplified its fear. And can't believe an F-ranker just tamed a dragon. The creature says something to Yuri, who realizes it's filled with hatred for the hunter. Yuri says that if that's the case, he'll leave the rest up to the dragon. In that instant, Yuri uses his magic to unlock the dragon's hidden power. Surrounded by a golden aura, the creature charges at a terrified Aang. It snatches Aang in its mouth, lifting him and tossing him far from the cave. As Yuri checks on his new pet, Dutch is floored that the guy got a dragon companion. Asa sighs that Yuri once again took everything for himself. She adds that she'll ask the guild for his reward, though. He wonders if she really means what she said. Asa confirms it since he saved the dragon and punished Aang for her. Our main character feels conflicted as Aisha appeared to know Aang. She explains they were rivals back in their C rank days. They were always competing to be the first one to reach B rank. So after she got promoted, Aang started heading down a much darker path. In the end, his license was revoked and he was kicked out of the guild. Finishing her story, she declares that Aang is a total idiot. Aisha then asks Yuri where adventurers who fall into darkness usually end up. She explains that they end up in the subguild. It's a shady organization that hires adventurers who have lost their licenses or committed crimes. The young woman also tells Yuri he's strong and kind. But sometimes watching him is like looking at a newborn since he's so easily fooled by everyone. He knows nothing of the world and his mindset is still stuck at the F rank level. If he continues to go it alone, he'll just end up like Aang. Yuri thinks it's a harsh critique, but he knows that Aisha is right. It's only been half a year since he was reincarnated into this world. Aisha explains there's another training session next week and Yuri must join, so she can help train his mind. At the guild training, Aisha greets the assembled fools. She declares that the great Aisha will train them today and the adventurers all go silent. The feisty trainer asks if everyone is ready because she is about to begin. But Arnett interrupts, pointing out there are only 5 of them here today. Last time there were around 10. The instructor reveals that actually these 5 are the only ones who are left. She informs them that in just 1 month, 3 died and 2 quit the guild. This leaves Arnett speechless. Fishy even says that half the newbies surviving a month is actually a good outcome. Yuri. Seeing the risk, she comments that you can never let your guard down as an adventurer. The trainer points out that being an adventurer isn't easy and orders all 5 to stay alert. Then she officially announces they can begin. And today's special training is garbage duty. In the city, we find our 5 adventurers dutifully collecting trash. 2 of them start complaining, wondering why on earth they're doing this. In a flashback, Yuri recalls Asa saying he was missing something important which he'd find through training. While cleaning, Yuri thinks that he won't turn evil like Asa fears. but he isn't exactly sure how to prevent it. For the time being, he'll just follow his orders. Arnett notes Yuri is impressive, while the boy just thinks he never noticed before. But when you look closely, you see there's trash just about everywhere. Just then, a child asks his mom what Yuri is doing, and Yuri replies that he's picking up trash. The curious little boy then asks him why. He explains it's adventurer training, which gets the kid really excited. The child exclaims that it's super cool and decides he'll help the adventurer too. Arnett then comes over, asking the boy if he'd like to help them clean the city. So the girl starts cleaning with the very enthusiastic little boy. Yuri sees this and thinks the more help the better, so he should finish up fast. The people nearby are amazed by Yuri's speed, impressed by his trash collecting skills. All of a sudden, the citizens start to feel inspired, and they all begin helping Yuri clean up the town. Azawa seems confused by the sudden crowd, but Asa appears, noting things are going well. Yuri says the townsfolk started helping for some reason, though all they did was pick up trash. Asa then explains that this was the lesson. His sincere efforts touched the people's hearts. She brings up Angus, who had great talent but chose to walk a path of evil. And if you only care about your own gain and ignore others, you will eventually pay the price. But when you act with sincerity and heart, people will gather to support you. And when you start to lose your way, your friends will be there to bring you back. She tells him she hoped he would understand this. And it finally clicks for him. He got this far thanks to all the people he's met. The boy helping Arnett runs off shouting that the trash collecting hero is here to save the day. He keeps going right until he bumps into someone. A bully sneers that an annoying brat ran into him, telling the kid to watch where he's going. The punk then starts to make fun of the boy, saying he's playing adventurer and should just dream of being a rank F garbage man. To make a point, he flicks his cigarette onto the clean ground. He taunts the child, saying he'll be picking up trash forever. Suddenly, Yuri appears, points at the cigarette, and says the man dropped something. Yuri suggests he throw it in the trash, but the jerks ask if he's looking for a fight. The bald one claims they were just giving the kid an appropriate job to do. He adds the kid should be grateful since trash duty is all a rank F is good for. The guy with the mohawk lunges at Yuri, calling him a total idiot. He tells Yuri to pick up the cigarette butt himself. Azawa smoothly ducks his opponent's attack and casually picks up the cigarette. He uses a little fire magic to relight it, then flicks it right in the bully's face. To finish the job, he sends both goons flying into a trash can with some wind magic. The hero says it's a lesson on not littering, and the two quickly apologize. A child watches with shining eyes, thinking that adventurers are the coolest. Night falls across the forest as time moves forward. In a dark cave, a man named Aang begs a hooded figure to just wait. He pleads for his life, vowing to go after the dragon's heart immediately. The young man even swears he'll kill that annoying adventurer Yuri Azawa who got in his way. The hooded figure says Aang can keep the item, offering him another chance instead. With a snap of his fingers, he tells Aang to make absolutely sure he kills Yuri. In that instant, the young man starts to undergo a demonic transformation. Watching this, the figure thinks he's found Yuri much sooner than he expected. Elsewhere, Roses tells Yuri there's something he'd like to ask him. Yuri asks Roses why he called him all the way out here. Roses reveals his request is for a high-ranking mission. The target is none other than the Ogre King. Roses explains that an ogre appeared in the village of Morum a few days ago, and it's been terrorizing the villagers. This one is bigger and much more violent than usual. An E-rank adventurer from a nearby town tried to stop it, but was soundly defeated. Roses says they've determined it's a superior variant, the Ogre King. He would normally handle it, but he's too busy with other work to go. So the mission has fallen to Azawa. Roses already reported it to the guild and received special permission. He argued that the man who defeated a dragon was the perfect person for the job. Yuri hesitates, thinking he's getting dragged into another complicated mess, but he accepts, figuring this will make a great next meal for Lime. Deep in the forest, Yuri finally arrives at Morum village. He notes how nicely the village seems to blend in with nature. Suddenly, Yuri spots someone he knows and recognizes him as Phil. Arnett asks why he's there, and Yuri explains he took a guild mission to fight the Ogre King. He then asks if she's planning to join the fight too. The girl says no, explaining that she just got home since Morum village is her hometown. Phil says he couldn't accept the mission, but he refuses to just sit around and do nothing. He explains it's his hometown too, and he wants to do whatever he can to help. Arnett feels better knowing Yuri is here, but an object suddenly flies right at him. After getting hit by the strange object, Yuri wonders what on earth it was. Arnett, however, seems to recognize who threw the projectile. Just then, we meet Arnett's grandmother, Hilda. She says they don't need a fragile outsider like Yuri, but Phil tells his grandmother to stop. Recognizing her, Arnett asks what she's doing and urges her to come inside. As they walk up the stairs, Arnett tells Yuri that her family isn't exactly normal. She warns him that he should probably prepare himself. Once they're inside, Hilda actually apologizes for what she did earlier. She remarks that Yuri must be impressive to have defended himself from her thorn. Grandma teases, asking if Yuri is her boyfriend, sending Phil into a flustered panic. Yuri feels a bit hurt, wondering if he comes across as a bad guy. But Phil blurts out, "Yes," and Hella just laughs, saying she already figured as much. Switching topics. Grandma says she knows why they returned, since Armeg must have seen her quest. Hella insists that even for the village's sake, that mission is impossible for Phil to complete. Phil tries to object, but Grandma reveals she knows about the legendary Oni god. This revelation leaves Yuri completely confused. The old woman explains that 3 years ago, an ogre appeared near their village. Adventurers challenged it, but they all failed miserably. However, the ogre never attacked, so they called it the Oni god and chose to coexist. Sending rookies out there would just make it angry. It would only worsen things, so Phil must not act rashly. Phil assures her it's fine because Yuri is handling the mission. The old woman stands, noting that Yuri doesn't act like an ordinary man. She says that's expected from the man her granddaughter chose. Still, she can't just accept him that easily. She's preparing a special test for the boy. By sunset, they must bring back 10 kumi horns to prove his strength and Phil's growth. A little later, the two are seen walking through the forest. Yuri asks about the kid tailing them, and we see a half-wolf boy named Sam. Phil says that's her little brother, but Yuri notes they don't look alike. Phil then explains that their village is a little different. It's a gathering place for kids who lost their families nearby. Both she and Sam were left in the woods, but Grandma found them and raised them as her own. That's why she'll do anything to protect her home. Sam jumps before Yuri declaring he won't accept some guy who got close to Phil. The boy adds that this is also a task from Grandma. Today he's here to test Yuri's real strength. Phil tells Sam not to be rude, but he just scoffs. He grumbles that her taste in guys is awful for liking this sleepy-looking dude. Phil grabs Yuri's hand, insisting Sam is wrong. The boy fumes with jealousy until they all sense something. Phil asks if Yuri felt that. He did. They're completely surrounded by kumis. Sam looks thrilled that the creatures have finally shown up. He sneers, wanting to see how these weaklings fight. Yuri then rushes forward, taking down several monsters instantly. With the enemies gone, Yuri turns to Sam, asking if he's been accepted yet. The boy hops down, acting unimpressed, and saying that was to be expected. He warns of stronger foes back home. Just as a transformed Aang appears, Yuri saves Sam, blocking Aang's attack with a wall of ice. He tosses Sam over to Phil, telling her to keep him safe. Then he declares he'll handle this monster by himself. Aang shatters Yuri's ice wall and begins calling out his name. It lunges again. Yuri dodges, wondering how this thing knows his name. Yuri lands a clean strike with his sword, slicing its shoulder and chest. Sam was simply blown away, calling the kid amazing. The wolf wondered if city adventurers were always this tough. Arnett said Yuri was just special. But then something strange happened to Anus. Anus shifted to a more human shape, calling the hero's name, and Yuri seemed to recognize him. With that, the creature collapsed, totally beaten. Knowing someone could turn people into ogres, Yuri suspected a mastermind was pulling the strings. Back in town, Hilda was in shock to see the mission was complete. She couldn't believe he'd actually collected the horns. Sam added that Yuri beat a huge Oni, and the old woman said he looked just like her lost son. She explained that 30 years ago, her son had been a rank A adventurer. He was the village hero, but vanished fighting a terrifying beast and never came back. So she made Yuri promise to return safely, not wanting to lose another young hero. She unrolled a scroll telling him to visit the sanctuary, just outside the village, and make an offering of food and spoils. Then the Oni god itself would appear. After following her directions and with Arnett in a weird outfit, Yuri said they were set. Yuri asked if her getup was really necessary. She said it was for the climate, and she'd act as bait while Yuri fought the Oni. Yuri seemed unsure, noting that it sounded pretty risky, but she was all fired up, saying that she might not look it, but she was a master at making a quick escape. Suddenly, a loud crash startled them. The ground shook. Yuri knew it was here. A massive creature appeared, dragging its club. It swung at them, smashing the forest, but they managed to get away. The Ogre King roared, and Arnett got scared. So Yuri told Lime to watch over her. Lime puffed up into a ride for Arnett and bounced off as she cheered for Yuri's definite win. Yuri nodded, drawing his blade and imbuing it with magic. They charged at each other, his sword clashing against the monster's club. The beast's immense power sent Yuri flying backward, but he landed smoothly on a tree and launched himself forward. He zipped through the trees toward the ogre, which quickly noticed him again. Yuri landed on a rock the monster had just thrown. The ogre smashed it right where he'd been standing. But Yuri was already on its back, using a skill to press the attack. His blade found its mark, severing the beast's left arm. It howled in pain. but the arm grew back instantly, just like that evil dragon Yuri thought. Just then the ogre spoke, saying it had finally found a worthy human. Yuri was shocked that it could actually talk. The Ogre King begged Yuri to finish him with his own hands. He didn't want to hurt anyone else. Yuri was totally lost. The ogre revealed he was once human, but was transformed and mind-controlled by magic, forced to attack adventurers. And so he pleaded to be ended before he lost his last shred of humanity, but then he snaps and lunges wildly at Azawa. Azawa accepts severing the ogre's arm and soaring into the air. He promises to grant the ogre's wish, then plunges his sword into his chest. As he falls, the Ogre King thanks Yuri, calling him the strongest. He reverts to his human form and an earring drops from his ear. Yuri notices the earring looks just like the one Hilda wears. He starts to suspect the ogre might have been her son. Before he can process it, a horned stranger appears and attacks Azawa. The stranger is impressed by his speed, noting he dodged a vital strike. She introduces herself as Jilly Pomviv number 66. She tells Yuri she's there to reward him for handling her brother Zark. Azawa admits he felt their magic was similar, and now it all makes sense. Of course, it's because Zark was Gilly's brother. The girl reveals the Ogre King was her finest masterpiece. Once a human who vowed to protect his village, she turned him into a beast. How ironic that the village's protector became its greatest threat. Charging a dark power, Jilly says he's humiliated her group long enough. She declares that this is where their story ends. Forming a dark magic lance, she hurls it, telling Azawa to face his sins. He stands his ground, blocking the attack and realizing it's cursed magic. It's filled with the vengeful spirits of the humans she turned into ogres. After stopping the lance, the young man gains the advanced curse magic skill. In response, Jilly transforms into a monstrous creature. She laughs, saying this is what she wanted, eager to see Azawa's true power. She vows to completely crush him when he's at his strongest. Taking on an even more demonic form, she places a hand on the ground. Instantly, black smoke blankets the entire area. Advancing on Yuri, she taunts him about being unable to move. Jilly boasts that he's completely helpless within her darkness. But just then, the boy unleashes his reverse curse ability, ripping her arm off. Unfazed, Jilly leaps into the sky, charging up a ball of energy. She launches it at Azawa, screaming for him to burn in the fires of hell. But our hero retaliates with his own advanced fire magic. His attack blasts through hers, causing a huge explosion in the forest. As she falls defeated, the demon just can't believe it. Yuri appears before her with a cursed lance, accusing her of toying with innocent lives. He tells her that she's the one who truly deserves to be judged. And with that, he attacks, punishing her for all her evil deeds. Back in the village, Hilda can hardly believe Yuri defeated the Oni god. She admits that Phil was right about him being extraordinary. Hilda then asks Yuri if he'd please look after Phil for her. When he agrees, she gets a little flustered, making things sweetly awkward. Just as Arnett asks to leave, Yuri notices Hilda's earrings. He holds out his hand, saying he has something to give her. He explains the Ogre King dropped this, saying it must belong to her son. He was certain the boy had fought to protect the village. Recognizing the earring, the girl begins to weep and thanks Yuri, who then leaves with Arnett. She expresses her thanks for everything and for keeping the truth from her grandmother. Yuri then turns to Phil, asking if she witnessed everything. She confirms she did, watching the fight with Lime from a safe distance. Yuri admits he lied, because telling her the awful truth seemed too cruel. Phil confesses that she prefers those kinds of gentle lies. She says Yuri's kindness saved both her grandmother and the child. Besides, some lies are meant to be told and others are not. Yuri simply hopes that she's right. The two then walk off now, good friends. Yuri awakens adrift in the ocean, surrounded by wreckage. A woman's voice calls out, glad that he has finally woken up. He felt he'd seen her face before, but couldn't recall where. The mysterious woman used the last of her magical power. She was communicating directly with his heart. She pleads with him to go to the city of Luminaria immediately. Before vanishing, she warns that if he fails, the world will be destroyed. This leaves our hero baffled as his breathing grows heavy. He realizes with a shock that this was not a dream, and then he blacks out. Back at the hotel, Yuri is woken up by Lime sitting on his face. He wonders what the little creature is doing. That dream, he thinks, felt incredibly real. And if the world were really destroyed, his peaceful life would be over. Now, that would be a problem. Not wanting that, he decides to investigate, and Lime is on board. The pair makes their way to the guild, where he tells the clerk he needs to get to Luminaria. But the receptionist says that due to an emergency, all trips to the city are restricted. Yuri knew it. Something serious was definitely going on. He presses the girl, asking if there was any way to get there at all. He explains plainly that if he doesn't, the world is doomed. Flustered, the young woman stammers that in that case, there is one way. Yuri would need to accept a top-secret mission, but she can't reveal the details. In response to the crisis, the government sent the Order of Knights on an expedition. A few skilled adventurers would be chosen to join the mission. Yuri would have to pass the knight's difficult entrance exam. Though he's hesitant, he knows it's the only way he can get there. Riko shows up happy to see Yuri and asking how he's been. She asks if he's going to accept the mission to Luminaria. When he says yes, Riko decides she'll apply too and asks to go with him. Yuri agrees. Riko remarks that the Order of Knights brings back memories. This just leaves Lime completely confused. On a training field, Yuri asks if this huge crowd is all for the mission. Riko explains that it's because the reward is absolutely enormous, but she warns that the knight's test is tough and that he needs to get serious. He agrees. Suddenly, a blonde girl appears, calling Riko Big Sister and hugging her tightly. The girl gushes that Riko has gotten even more beautiful since they last met. Still holding on to a very surprised Riko, Yuri asks if they know each other. Turns out the blonde is an old friend from her knightly days. Her name, Clarice Apricot. Yuri's a bit lost. Riko explains she was a knight before becoming an adventurer. Suddenly he says it all makes perfect sense. Clarice, looking annoyed, asks her sister who this guy is. Riko proudly introduces Yuri, an adventurer who's helped her a ton. She claims she isn't jealous, but that a scrawny guy like him isn't worthy of her sister. Still, she figures he must be skilled, so she asks him for his rank. Yuri calmly replies that he's F rank. And Clarice absolutely loses it. How could an F rank dare to stand next to Riko? Riko insists Yuri is incredible, but Clarice thinks he's just tricked her. She completely refuses to accept his abilities. Riko apologizes, saying Clarice always jumps to conclusions. But Yuri just shrugs it off. He's F rank, and that's totally fine. Just then, a knight appears, calling all adventurers together. He thanks everyone for showing up today. This is Brian, captain of the Knights, and he's in charge of their test. Brian announces the start of a 2-day survival test. Only the survivors get to join the top-secret mission. He instructs them to follow their assigned knight into the eastern forest. With that, he wishes them all good luck. Yuri realizes this is the tough test Riko was talking about. To get to Luminaria, he has to pass no matter what. Yuri wonders who his knight is. Of course it's Clarice. She sneers that he's already disqualified. Out in the forest, Clarice is still giving Yuri the death glare, making him super uncomfortable. He finally asks why she's staring at him so hard. She scoffs, calling it a stupid question. He's an F rank after all. She explains this test also judges an adventurer's character. Clarice makes it clear Riko is fine. Yuri is the problem. The only reason he isn't disqualified yet is out of pity. But if he proves unfit, she'll fail him on the spot. Yuri says he'll just have to prove himself then. Right on cue, silver wolves appear. His examiner notes they're perfect for a test. Drawing his sword. Yuri agrees it's time to show his stuff. Riko offers to take the lead. She leaps forward, her sword a blur, taking out several wolves. Clarice is impressed. But when she turns to mock Yuri, she finds he's already downed 3 wolves himself. He took them down in the blink of an eye. Riko cheers for Yuri. Seeing him do that, with a single strike leaves Clarice stunned. She admits that he definitely has some power. But his technique is sloppy and totally reckless. Riko defends him, saying all that matters is beating the enemy. Yuri just smiles. The test has barely started. He tells Clarice to just wait and see. Later by a river, Clarice says survival means finding your own food. And just like that, she fires an arrow, snagging a fish from the water. The blonde challenges Yuri to a fishing contest. The prize she'll finally admit he's got talent. Riko warns him it's no easy feat since Clarice's magic control is top tier. With that, she fires a volley of arrows into the water, admitting her sister was right. Yuri sees she's nailing the fish with incredible precision. Copying her method would make winning pretty tough. He's stumped until a system window pops up with a new advanced magic. Clarice just laughs, mocking his hesitation. She taunts that he's too weak, but he just asks if he really has to catch them one by one. He then unleashes some bizarre magic. Suddenly, tons of fish are sucked into his spell, leaving Riko and Clarice stunned. Our hero then opens a portal, dumping out his entire catch. He proudly shows off his huge haul, leaving Clarice speechless. Riko asks if she'll concede, but Clarice stubbornly says no. Later on, she explains that surviving the night is the hardest part, because monsters get way more active after dark. Clarice says he'll have to fight off sleep and battle in total darkness, but since Yuri always looks tired, she suggests he just take a nap and become an easy meal for the monsters. The main character knows an all-nighter would be brutal, so he summons some kobolds for backup. He orders his new minions to stand guard in shifts. Clarice just stares at him, asking what on earth he thinks he's doing. As Yuri wonders if he overdid it, the blonde stomps over to the campfire. She declares that his little stunt was basically cheating. Riko says Clarice just isn't honest, but she's a good person deep down. Yuri then turns to Riko, asking why she joined the Order of Knights. Riko says there wasn't really a special reason. Her family has served as knights for generations, so following that path just felt natural to her. Yuri asks why she left the knights, but she avoids the question, saying she's turning in early. Yuri can tell she dodged the topic and seemed a little lonely. His gaze then shifts to Clarice sitting by the campfire. He explains his monster, Wanichi, and the others are on guard so she can rest. But she calls him absurd, reminding him that she's the supervisor here. Besides, she adds she doesn't trust his skills and will watch her own back. Yuri figures earning her trust is going to take a while. So he sits down and asks how she and Riko first met. The question seems to make the young woman a bit uncomfortable. But Yuri explains Riko said they were close, and he was curious about their life in the order. Hearing that Riko said that seems to make her happy. She decides it's a perfect chance to teach him about her sister's kindness. As Riko sleeps, Clarice begins to tell him a special story, a tale about their time together in the Order of Knights. Clarice reveals that as a child she saw monsters take her parents' lives, and the same beast that destroyed her family then came for her. But in the nick of time, the Knights of Luminaria appeared and defeated the bear. That day, she decided she would become a knight to protect people too. Clarice was sent to an orphanage where she focused completely on her sword training. Eventually she was accepted into the Knight Academy, but it was nothing like she had dreamed. The reality was that most knights came from rich, famous families. The others had barely managed to pass the difficult entrance exams. They were known as the Academy's shame group, and among them was a girl from an orphanage. She was definitely an unusual sight at the school. While some jerks were bullying her, Riko suddenly appeared and saved the day. When one of them demanded to know who she was, Riko told the guy to get lost. He proudly announced he was Riko Grand's here to help the weak and crush the strong. Clarice says that was the moment she decided to follow her big sister for life. She believes Riko is a true knight, someone who will protect everybody. Yuri realizes that Riko had always been watching over him, and now he understands why. Clarice retorts that such kindness is what invites sketchy people like Yuri to take advantage, but he immediately denies that he was doing anything like that. The blonde points out that his strength is useless if he just swings his sword wildly. A huge attack means nothing without the proper swordsmanship to back it up. She says she could never recognize a fighter like that, nor would they ever be worthy of the Knight Order. Hazela recalls that Asia once said something similar about wielding a sword correctly. He knew she was right, but putting it into practice was tougher than it looked. Suddenly, 3 strangers appear, one laughing that he's found the little knight. Clarice asks if they needed something from her. The man grumbles that they were rejected, and the Knight Order is just totally blind. He calls them a bunch of arrogant government dogs, so it was time for them to learn a lesson. As he forms an ice knife, she sighs, realizing this is just a sore loser's grudge. She says it must take a lot of guts to challenge her to a sword duel. The thug just smirks, saying he never mentioned anything about using swords. And in that instant, a venomous snake lunges out and bites Clarice. She defeats the creature, but the adventurer sneers that this is bad news. If a knight can't move, they're completely helpless. Clarice calls him a coward, but he just laughs it off, saying he'll get revenge on the stuck-up knight. He then summons a cyclops, which appears with a deafening roar. The knight realizes he's a tamer controlling B-rank monsters, which is not good. But Yuri steps forward again, calling forth his own golems. The tamer asks what he wants, and Yuri says he'll handle Clarice's business for her. The blonde tells the young man to stay back. This had nothing to do with him, it was her battle. The tamer says the main character has no place here. People like Clarice always act so high and mighty, but they eventually regret it. He boasts that even a monster who obeys no one kneels before him. The Cyclops lunges right for Yuri, but he doesn't even flinch, ready to take the hit. He'd blocked the blow for Clarice with his bare hands. Then he starts analyzing the creature. Yuri quickly realizes the Cyclops is being controlled. A nasty curse was forcing it to obey that guy, causing it immense pain. So the young man uses his curse reversal skill, declaring that from this moment on, the Cyclops was finally free to choose. The creature snaps out of it, turning around with a furious roar. At its former masters, it immediately starts chasing them down. This scene reminds Clarice of her past when Riko used to protect her. Yuri turns to ask if Clarice is okay, and the girl gets a little emotional. Clarice tries to act tough and stand, but she suddenly feels weak. Yuri sees the poison spreading quickly through her system. He sends out his slime, trusting the little guy, then starts to draw out the poison. Yuri asks Clarice how she's feeling. She says she feels unbelievably good, actually even better than before. Yuri says that's great. Clarice then asks why he saved her after she doubted his skill. Our main character explains that if she got hurt, Riko would be sad. He should never neglect others and always live with honesty and purpose. That's the code he learned as an adventurer. Clarice admits she never expected a lecture and finds it frustrating. but she says Yuri passed her test. They'll go save Luminia together. Hearing about yesterday's events, Riko is totally surprised, saying she can't believe they bonded so much while she was asleep. She thinks Yuri is just amazing. They finally reach a cliff's edge. Yuri asks if this is the spot. Riding a flying dragon, Clarius calls out, apologizing for the wait. Once Clarius lands, Yuri asks if they're taking that wyvern. She confirms. Luminia is far across the eastern sea and a carriage would take too long, so the three of them hop on the grand creature and head for Luminia. A while into the flight, Riko mentions that no matter how many times she sees this view, it always takes her breath away. Yuri casually asks if they can't speed things up a bit. Clarius, annoyed, says, that's impossible since this dragon is meant for two. If he's complaining he can jump and swim, she and Riko will just go on alone. And to her shock, he actually does it, leaping right off the wyvern. The girls are stunned, but then they notice something approaching fast. A black rank bee dragon appears, it spooks their wyvern, and Riko tumbles into the sea. Meanwhile, our main character summons the dragon he tamed earlier. His white dragon emerges, saving both Yuri and Riko from the fall. Yuri then leaps from his dragon, charging the black one, and slicing its neck, saying he's in a hurry and can't be bothered with delays. Afterward, he and Riko ride the white sky dragon, leaving her amazed by his skills yet again. Clarius is left wondering just who this guy really is. Even veteran Dragon Knight commanders can barely handle a sky dragon. Yuri then coolly announces it's time to pick up the pace. The white dragon zipped forward, making Riko comment on its awesome speed. Clarius felt a brief sting of envy until she saw the city of Luminaria appear. Yuri agreed it was a gorgeous city situated right by the ocean. He wondered what kind of trouble could be happening in such a calm place. Down at the port, locals stared in awe at the approaching flying beast. One brave soul asked if the massive creature belonged to Yuri. When he nodded, the man said he had never witnessed a sky dragon up close. The port manager apologized, saying the dragon was far too large for their stables. Yuri said it was no problem, gave his pet a thank you, and made it vanish. The crowd gasped, but a jealous Clarius quickly started pulling him away. She hissed that they were on a secret mission and couldn't attract attention. She explained that Luminaria was built with waterways connecting the city to the sea. That's why people lovingly call it the City of Water. As she kept explaining the city's features, Yuri's attention drifted elsewhere. He had spotted a statue that looked strangely familiar. Riko noticed and asked him what caught his eye. Following his gaze, she explained it was a statue of Lady Aqua, the water priestess. The old stories say she founded Luminaria and became the city's symbol. It finally dawned on Yuri she was the woman he had seen in his dream. 10 kilometers east of the city, a dome of cursed energy covered Lake Elise. A young man with horns asked his prisoner if she was finally willing to talk. Aqua simply asked what on earth he was talking about. But the demon knew she had used magic to contact somebody for help. He said it was completely useless for her to play dumb. Grabbing her chin, Serial sneered that no one was coming to save her now. A subordinate appeared. With urgent news for Lord Serial, a patrol dragon was defeated. Aqua knew at once it was Azawa's doing. He had finally made it. Serial understood exactly who was responsible for this little incident. Serial dismissed his subordinate, casually thanking him for the report. He then completely disintegrated the man into a swirl of black energy. Aqua asked in horror how he could do that to his own allies. The Lord called them mere sacrifices, simply fuel for his dark magic. He then began to gather sinister magic into the palm of his hand. He launched it at Aqua, making the priestess scream out in agony. With Aqua unconscious, Serial vowed to destroy whoever came revealing his rank as number 4. Elsewhere, Clarius announced to the group that they had finally arrived. This was the headquarters for the Luminaria Knights, also called the Silver Shield. Looking around, she explained their order was named for the old Silver Guardians. They are a shield sworn to protect the city's good people. Yuri thought to himself that this place was way classier than the Adventurers Guild. Clarius then stepped forward to thank Lord Marius for waiting on them. A bearded mage appeared, welcoming the brave knights for coming to help. He greeted Riko warmly, saying it was wonderful to see her after so long. He also praised Clarius for a job well done. As his friends bowed respectfully, Yuri wondered if this old man was really that big a deal. And just like that, the girls jumped to his defense. Clarius explained he was a powerful court mage asking for mercy, but Marius simply said it was no big deal. Sizing up our hero, Marius noticed his solid and unwavering aura. He looked young, but his magic and sword skills had to be immense. It was like facing a legendary swordsman and a grand mage combined. So the Lord asked for the adventurer's name and he introduced himself. The old man remarks that Yuri could be the one he sought for years. He was searching for powerful people who think outside the box. Azawa realized he'd underestimated a court mage's power. Up close, he could tell Marius was the strongest person he'd ever met. The mage decided to get straight to the point. Yuri would join his knights to check out a singularity threatening the kingdom. He clarified that a singularity is an area tainted by dark magic. A few days ago, one popped up 10 kilometers east of Luminoria. The area was restricted and they sent in an investigation team. But the team quickly realized they were in over their heads, so now they're looking for adventurers to help them out. He officially tasked the trio with heading to Lake Elise to save Luminoria. It clicked for Azawa. This must be the world-ending threat the Saint warned him about. And if that's the case, he has no choice but to stop it. He tells Marius he'll handle it and to leave everything to him. The old man announced they would leave at dawn. The group should use the night to rest up and prepare for what's ahead. Meanwhile, at a hotel in Luminoria, Yuri was just chilling. He wondered if his little pet was hungry and his own stomach began to rumble. Azawa realized he hadn't eaten anything all day. He remembered Riko telling him to stay put while she handled some things. But of course he was now exploring the city streets anyway. He just got to a new city. A little walk couldn't hurt, right? He started checking out all the cool spots, enjoying the scenery. Then all of a sudden Yuri spotted Riko. When she saw him, she immediately asked what he was doing there. Azawa explained that he and Lime got hungry, so they went looking for food. He then turned the question back on her, but before she could answer, some guy named Barry Blast showed up calling her name. The redhead looked annoyed, asking Barry what he wanted. The guy just smirked and said he was out for a walk. He even claimed they were engaged and acted sad that she was so cold. Riko shot back that he hadn't changed and she'd broken it off long ago. She told him to drop it, adding that pushy guys are a total turnoff. Barry accused her of coming back just to show off some new guy. He sneered that she'd be better off with him than some clueless nobody. And then Barry pressed a knife to her throat. He offered to make her his third wife, calling her a disgraced knight. Nothing more than a washed-up adventurer. Riko tells him to take that back. She doesn't mind insults, but she won't let him disrespect Yuri. Barry pins the girl to the wall, saying she always acts so sure of herself. But he reminds her that every time they fought, she knew deep down she couldn't win. He orders the redhead to remember her place. Yuri, placing a hand on his shoulder, says that Barry is the one who should know his place. In response, Barry spins around, aiming a kick right at the main character's head. Azawa dodges with ease and counters, sweeping the jerk's supporting leg. As he starts to fall, Barry plants a hand on the ground to steady his landing. That's when he realizes Yuri is one of the adventurers joining tomorrow's mission. He announces that he'll be joining too, so they might as well get along. Barry and Azawa square up, looking ready for a real fight. But then Barry turns away, claiming he was just kidding around. He says he doesn't have time to mess with weaklings before a big mission, but if Yuri gets in the way tomorrow, he won't hesitate to kill him. Yuri wonders aloud if someone like that should really be a knight. Riko replies that even though he's a jerk, he is very skilled. Our hero had to agree. His moves were surprisingly sharp, despite his personality. Riko then recalls Yuri asking why she quit being a knight. She explains that Barry was one of the reasons, and that Luminia is her hometown. Her father was a highly respected knight who died in battle when she was young. The girl says she hated being alone, so she just followed the path and became a knight. But her future and even who she was supposed to marry was all decided by others. Living that kind of life was completely suffocating. All she ever wanted was to live freely, which is how she became an adventurer. But she still questions if it was the right choice and if her father would be proud. Yuri reassures her that as long as she's happy now, that is all that really matters. He then adds that there's absolutely nothing wrong with living freely. Riko agrees now, more determined than ever to save Luminia tomorrow. A little while later, we see an entire army marching toward their objective. Marius surprises Riko by telling Yuri that he's counting on him for today. The mage declares that Yuri is the key to this mission, and has everyone's hopes. This makes him realize that the expectations for him have just gone through the roof. Barry, who was walking behind them, says he's pretty surprised. He can't believe Yuri is the ace, adding that the old man's plans never make sense. The arrogant guy then claims that he is without a doubt the real ace here. To him, Yuri is just another knight useful for support at best. Riko fumes, but Clarius quietly warns Yuri to be careful. Barry is the strongest knight in the order. Clarius recalls that during the Great Suppression, 100 knights vanished, and Barry was the only one to return alive. Yuri understands now that in this place, raw power is what truly matters. Suddenly, a few knights spot something, and right in front of them is the singularity. Brian remarks on the immense and unsettling magical energy pouring from it. Barry strolls right past him, asking the captain not to tell him he's getting scared. The man now confidently strides toward the strange anomaly. He declares that after coming all this way, there's no chance they're retreating now. Marching toward the singularity, Barry orders all of his men to advance. Brian pointed out Barry's recklessness, saying he was only bold because he'd gotten lucky before. But Marius argued his daring was actually boosting everyone's morale. Without a word, Riko signaled Yuri that it was time to go. The two stepped into the singularity, finding a massive purple vortex swirling like a black hole. The redhead immediately commented on the unsettling feeling in the air. Yuri noted that this land, once lush and fertile, was now completely dead. In that moment, the knights spotted black goblins crawling from the shadows. The creatures charged, their surprising strength overwhelming the front lines. 3 goblins lunged for Azawa, but she cut them down in a single clean strike. Marius also showed his might, summoning a raging hurricane of pure fire, wiping out a wave of creatures before ordering the others to clean up the rest. Barry watched with jealousy, muttering that Marius was sticking his nose where it didn't belong, and right on cue, even more of the possessed creatures swarmed in. One of the knights yelled out that the monsters just kept coming. Yuri then realized this endless horde was the true terrifying effect of the singularity. A soldier finally broke, yelling that they couldn't keep this up and had to fall back. But Barry snapped, grabbing the soldier by his neck and calling him a useless coward. The betrayal was sudden. He tossed the man aside, snarling it was punishment for questioning his command. The soldier tumbled uncontrollably toward the edge of a deep chasm. We see a massive pit dug by giant ants, and he was seconds from falling in. However, Marius cast a sphere of light, catching the soldier and letting him float safely. The man gratefully thanked the mage for saving his life. But as Marius turned, Barry struck from behind, shoving him into the very same pit. "What are you doing?" the mage cried as he fell. The knights could only watch in stunned silence. Marius plummeted toward a monstrous ant waiting at the bottom of the pit. Barry just smiled coldly, telling the old man he was no longer needed. And in an instant, the giant ant devoured the court mage. Laughing like a madman, Barry mocked the mage, calling him useless in the end. Enraged, Clarius fired a volley of magic arrows, screaming at him to snap out of it. But Barry casually deflected every single attack. Brian and Rico charged in to stop his rampage, only to be hit by a sudden explosion. The nearby monsters dissolved into dark power, flowing straight into Barry as he blasted the 2 knights back. The 2 landed on their feet, shaken but alive. Rico stared in horror as Barry's body twisted into a demonic form, asking what happened to him. Now half-demon Barry simply grinned, feeling the new power coursing through him. He declared that a world that didn't bend to his will was nothing but trash. Spreading black wings, he soared into the sky and began gathering dark energy. He was finally free, he yelled, and would live by his own rules from now on. With that, he unleashed a ball of pure darkness, sending knights flying in every direction. A black, corrupting dust began to spread from the blast zone. It quickly weakened and paralyzed a large portion of the remaining force. Barry sneered at their weakness, disgusted that he was ever one of them. But before he could declare he would kill them all, a streak of green energy shot toward him. He dodged at the last second, but the attack still managed to slice his cheek. After landing his shot, Yuri declared it was time to settle yesterday's score. Seeing his attacker, the demon furiously summoned his sword. He charged at Yuri, yelling that he'd warned him he'd be killed for interfering. The main character drew his blade, easily deflecting the fool's strike. Seeing this, Barry insisted that just defending wouldn't lead to victory. Azawa even made a move to attack him. But Barry leaped behind him. Azawa spun, instantly blocking the blow. Their weapons clashed, creating an energy blast that sent them both flying. Yuri wondered why a skilled fighter like Barry would betray the knights. He sneered that the knights were weak, and he just wanted to prove his strength. Barry revealed he'd killed 100 knights from the Order, being the sole survivor, and despite that, he received no recognition. He claimed the only things he desired were strength and absolute power. That's why he joined the numbers, becoming number 86. The idiot proclaimed that rank was only for the strongest of the chosen. In this world, he said, the strongest rule over everything. The demon even asked if Yuri agreed, feeling they were similar. But he shot back that Barry completely misunderstood freedom. Yuri stated that thinking strength lets you do anything is just an illusion. Ignoring everyone to live as you please isn't freedom. True freedom means living as you wish while respecting others. He then flashed in front of Barry, poised to attack. Just before striking, Yuri declared this was his freedom, unleashing a blue blast. His opponent was sent flying backward. Barry scoffed that Yuri was strong, but questioned if he could reach him midair. But looking up, he saw his foe flying with wind magic. Before he could process it, our hero attacked, plunging his sword into his chest. Utterly defeated, Barry groaned on the ground in pain. At that moment, the knights were freed, and Rico mentally thanked Yuri. Alla figured the guy was down for good until something strange happened. The man's body started to swell as he began screaming in terror. He desperately begged someone for one more chance. However, a demonic voice ordered Barry to be silent, then made him explode. A man named Cyril appeared where the knight's remains had been. He remarked the fool should be honored to become an offering for his magic. Then the white-haired man greeted Yuri as if he knew him. Yuri was immediately on guard. Cyril began releasing black mana that terrified everyone, making them faint. The demon started to speak to Yuri, then corrected himself to number 0. Azawa noted this guy's incredible magic and that he somehow knew him. So he demanded to know who this person was. The demon apologized, introducing himself as number 4 Serial. Serial said he knew Yuri was the one sending secret telepathic messages. The young man was confused, but number 4 told him not to pretend. He then began to release his binding purple magic. Yuri felt the magical energy around him suddenly brighten. What was once a lake now held a strange structure with someone chained right to it. The girl's eyes seemed to recognize Yuri, and our main character was completely stunned. He realized in an instant this was the girl from his dreams. He felt a strong sense of knowing her, but his memory came up blank. The girl opened her mouth trying to explain who she was, but at that moment Serial's magic activated, making her tremble in pain. The demon claimed he was too late to save her, but Yuri just charged forward, sword ready. Yuri went straight for Aqua's chains, but was blocked by some strange black magic. Serial casually explained this was a curse he created himself, and once you're caught, there is absolutely no escape. Yuri tried using curse reversal, but even that couldn't dent the powerful energy. He realized he was totally stuck. Serial noted that the old Yuri would have easily broken such a simple binding spell. He also mentioned he hadn't expected this, calling it pretty anticlimactic, but suddenly, a huge pillar of fire erupted right behind the demon. Marius appeared looking alive and more muscular than ever, vowing to help Yuri. Yuri was understandably very surprised. Marius then rushed at Serial, ready to deliver payback and launching a fire fist. Serial simply waved his hand, dispelling the magic. He scoffed at a human intervening, but Marius was already right in front of him. The old man made a move, but Serial stopped him with a quick blow to the neck. Serial said that if Marius had trained like a demon for 100 years, he might have been strong enough to try for a double-digit ranking. Before fainting, Marius said he was leaving the rest to Yuri. And just like that, we see Yuri had already freed himself with his reversal spell. Serial called him number 0 again. Noting the distraction helped him weaken the curse. Yuri answered by summoning his flame power and blasting it at Serial. Serial walked right through it, calling the attack ridiculous. The demon then landed a solid strike, sending Yuri flying. Before he could recover, Serial attacked once more with his powerful wings. Serial basically asked Yuri to start taking this a little more seriously. He wondered what happened to the so-called strongest magical swordsman in history. Our hero tried to counter, but Serial just smacked his sword. He sent it flying far away and called him pathetic. The demon then used his wings to blast Yuri, sending him deep into the lake. As he sank, he felt truly hopeless for the first time until a voice called his name. Yuri wondered whose voice was calling out to him. A vision of Aqua appeared, asking him to remember being the hero who saved the world. Yuri asked who she was, and the girl introduced herself as Aqua. She told him she was someone he had traveled with. She revealed they had fought the world's rulers together and brought about peace. It then clicked for Yuri. Aqua was a comrade who helped him defeat the Demon King. Aqua touched her forehead to his, saying even if he had forgotten his past, she would never ever forget the memories they shared. She simply asked the young man to have faith in her, because if he recovered his power, he would surely beat Serial. And just then, Yuri gets a new skill. The Triple S hero's memory Serial hovers above the lake, making his way to Aqua. He tells Aqua her hope is at the lake's bottom, and that her little struggle is over. However, she completely denies it, insisting he will return alive, so Serial uses his magic to torture the girl again. Number 4 explains that even if Azawa is alive, it'll just be a repeat. He even says Aqua saw the last fight and knows he's not on his level. So the demon declares he is going to end this. He also adds that Aqua was incredibly stubborn. Suddenly something bursts from the water and Serial turns, saying no matter how many times Yuri tries, it'll be the same as he flies past him. With incredible speed and strength, Yuri shatters the chains that were binding Aqua. Surrounded by a golden light, our hero tells his friend that it's all right and he'll finish this quickly. And we find out his new skill actually triples all his stats. Serial says he's impressed and tells Yuri to show him what he can do. And once more, Yuri appears behind him in a flash. Number 4 just barely blocks the hit. But the boy is relentless, striking at Serial with his sword over and over. The demon flies back, wondering what that was, as something felt off. And again, Yuri appears right in front of him, attempting to strike with his flaming sword. The attack creates a blast that worries Serial, so he starts using his dark magic. Serial forms several dark blades around himself, telling Yuri to be his sacrifice and launching them forward. Our hero breaks free from the magic without moving, making a giant fire dragon with his sword. He then dashes towards Serial, piercing the demon's chest and finishing him. Serial simply turns, whispering Yuri's name. He admits that Yuri wasn't bad and this was to be expected. Before fading, Number 4 says that sword style is definitely the power Yuri had before, but he says the form he just lost to was only a clone. And next time Azawa would face his true self before vanishing completely, a single red item falls from cereal. When he picks it up, Yuri finds it's a talisman that makes a clone of himself, but with just half the magic. Seeing the item fade, our hero thinks that even with all that power, Cereal wasn't even trying. He now sees there are truly strong people in this world. Aqua stands up, calling to Yuri and saying she believed in him and knew he would make it. Our main character thinks he's still missing something. He remembered her as his friend from when he was the magical demon emperor, but Aqua was human and shouldn't have been alive in this age. However, after analyzing her, he sees she belongs to the spirit race. The priestess notes that it is not surprising for Yuri to be confused. But she says humans with spiritual affinity can sometimes reincarnate as world spirits. She was reborn as the water spirit of this world's 11th generation. Our hero thinks he used a magic reincarnation stone, but Aqua reincarnated in a totally different way. But the girl asks him to put their happy reunion on hold for now, as she has something she must tell him. She explains that the numbers were finally making their move. They're trying to abuse their power over spiritual beings. Aqua adds that the spirit race governs the 5 types of magic. That's fire, water, wind curse, and sacred magic. They manage the flow of magical power to humans and demons, keeping the world in balance. But lately, the numbers have gotten much more powerful. They've started stealing spirit magic and even using forbidden black magic to modify humans. Aqua admits she doesn't know their ultimate goal. But if they capture all the spirits, the world is doomed. Yuri gets it now. This is what his dream was about. Aqua then reveals she needs him to find the Fire Priestess flare. She explains that the Fire Priestess is the number's next target. She knows because Cereal let the information slip when she was captured. Yuri feels like he's heard Flare's name somewhere before. Maybe it's a situation similar to what happened with Aqua. He must have some kind of connection to Flare from his past. Yuri tells Aqua he's decided to live freely just for himself now. He's sick of being dragged into everyone else's problems. But if anyone tries to stop him, he'll just crush them flat, which surprises Aqua. She chuckles a little, saying that Yuri has definitely changed. He used to fight for others, but now he's finally living for himself. Yuri recalls how his past lives were filled with obligations and endless suffering. In his first life, he was the Demon Emperor. In the second, he joined the Numbers and was known as the Sword Saint. He tried his best to save the world from the shadows, but no matter how hard he fought, he was never rewarded. He was just so tired of it all. Aqua notes that Yuri's friends are waking up, so they should fix this place first. The priestess gathers her power, sending a blue light skyward. The energy shatters the dome of the singularity, destroying it. And just like that, the demonic power is gone. As everyone wakes up, Riko wonders where she is remembering the singularity. Aqua gently tells them that everything is all right now. She introduces herself as the Water Priestess, happy to meet them. Riko and her friend are stunned to see the Water Priestess there. Claris even asks if she handled everything, but Aqua says no. She points to Yuri carrying Marius, saying he's the one who saved the day. Brian quickly runs over to check on Marius. Aqua reveals that Yuri drove off the Dark Agents. She adds that she was a captive too until he rescued her. Aqua then tells Yuri it's time for her to go, but he's surprised. She explains the Numbers will be after her again, so she needs to stay hidden. The young man simply nods, understanding. He thinks to himself that the Numbers want the 5 great spirits' power. Before she leaves, the priestess has one final request. She asks him to turn his face and close his eyes, and he obliges. She then plants a kiss on Yuri's cheek, leaving Riko and Clarice completely stunned. The girl says that, just as she suspected, Azawa had totally forgotten. She then reveals a bombshell: they were lovers in a past life. Everyone is floored, and our main character can't recall a thing. Later, Yuri asks Riko if leaving Luminaria was a bad idea, and she wonders why he's bringing that up. Grans clearly, a bit jealous, tells Yuri not to worry about it, since Aqua must mean so much more to him than she does. Inside his head, Azawa admits that for his past self, it was true. Aqua had been a very dear friend, but he tells her that now she's the most important one to him, making the girl blush as she asks what he means. Yuri just says it means exactly what she thinks, which makes her even more flustered. But privately, he's thinking something else. He's simply spent more time with Riko in this life than with Aqua. So naturally, if forced to choose, he would put the redhead first. There's no hidden meaning to it. Riko calls him unfair, adding that she might actually believe him. Noticing her odd reaction, Yuri asks if she's sick and needs to rest, but she quickly denies it. Yuri wakes up surrounded by flames, wondering where he is, and feeling a strange sense of deja vu. Suddenly, Flare is behind him, calling out his name, and telling him she wanted to see him one last time. Azawa feels like he knows that face, but just like with Aqua, the memory is blank. The priestess begs him to go to Fire Naturia's capital, warning that if he doesn't, the world is doomed. Internally, Yuri sighs that it's another end-of-the-world problem. He figures she must be the Fire Priestess that Aqua mentioned. Flames start to consume Yuri's body as a burning sensation takes over. He snaps awake in his bed covered in sleeping kobolds and wonders what the critters are up to. Azawa realizes the world is yet again on the brink of destruction, and he has to stop it if only for his own peace and quiet. The boy notes that things were getting complicated faster than he'd hoped. So with some hesitation, he looks for a quest heading toward the capital Fire Nateria. Walking through town, he spots a huge crowd and some kind of commotion. An old man thanks the customers for their patience, announcing the discount weapon shop is open. With that, a ton of people rush right inside. Yuri sees the weapon shop is absolutely packed. It occurs to him his sword is long overdue for some maintenance. Just then, Arnett appears excited about a special item she just snagged. Yuri asks what she's up to, and seeing him, she explains the weapon shop is a huge deal, attracting tons of adventurers. She says the store just opened with dirt cheap gear and fantastic service. The owner, Kali, is really nice, and the shop's reputation has been amazing, right from the very start. Arnett suggests Yuri should check it out since they're offering cheap weapon maintenance. Our main character admits the low price is tempting, but he'd rather have his sword handled by someone he trusts. So he turns her down, mentioning his usual go-to blacksmith. Yuri walked into the shop and saw Yugo in a heated argument with a little girl. The girl huffed that she'd said her piece so he could do whatever he wanted. As she stormed out, she bumped right into Yuri, who asked if she was okay. The little dwarf girl just mumbled that she was fine and then darted out of the shop. Yuri asked Yugo what that was about, and the dwarf sighed that he'd caught them at a bad time. He explained that the girl was Tia, his granddaughter, and they were fighting about the shop's future. When Yuri asked for details, Yugo admitted a new discount weapon shop had opened. Now their business was practically dead, and they were barely getting by. Yugo grumbled that a true blacksmith puts his soul into every piece, a practice he'd never abandon. Suddenly the dwarf's expression soured. "Oh no, they're back." Two loan sharks strolled in, with one smugly announcing that it was payday. Yuri quietly asked who they were, and the old man grimly answered, "Debt collectors." The dwarf told the men he'd have their money next month and that they should leave. But one of the thugs just sneered, saying their patience had officially run out. He then said that if Yugo didn't have the money, they'd just take his granddaughter instead, adding they had clients for a girl like her. He even had the nerve to say it might make the shop more profitable. The big bald goon started looking around, asking where the girl was. Yugo roared that Tia had nothing to do with this, but the man just lunged at the old dwarf. But before he could land a punch, the main character used his dimensional storage ability. Gold coins suddenly showered from the ceiling. Yuri calmly said, "Here's your payment. Now leave." The two idiots immediately scrambled for the money and bolted out the door. Yugo apologized profusely for Yuri getting involved and even paying his debt. But Yuri waved it off, saying the dwarf had always helped him with his sword. The dwarf looked ashamed, admitting he hadn't been able to maintain Yuri's sword properly. He'd taken out a loan to survive, but at this rate, the shop wouldn't make it. To make matters worse, his granddaughter wanted to take over and revitalize the place. He said she has the talent, but if anyone's going down with this ship, it should be him. He sighed that maybe it was time to give up, but Yuri told him it was too soon for that. The young adventurer revealed that without Yugo's swords, he never would have survived his journeys. Yuri then declared that he still wanted Yugo and only Yugo to make his swords. So to help rebuild the shop, he was ready to lend the dwarf his strength. Later, Yuri was explaining the whole story to Pancho at his tavern, who looked deep in thought. Pancho said he'd heard this new shop was using its wealth to sell weapons at rock-bottom prices. They were crushing all their competitors to monopolize the entire market. On top of that, they were hiring dwarves from the closed shops for extremely low wages. It was practically slave labor. Yuri finally understood the ugly business happening behind the scenes. He told Pancho he was determined to help Yugo's shop and asked if there was a way. A small smile appeared on Pancho's face. As it turned out, there was one. The perfect solution was the ideal blacksmith competition, or as it's more popularly known, the Smith Conference. Pancho explained that SmithCon is a huge festival for blacksmiths held every 4 years in the city, and everyone brings the single best weapon they've ever forged to show off their skills. The winner's name will echo as the #1 blacksmith. The prize money is enough to clear debts and invest in the future. Yuri admits he never imagined a solution like this. He calls Pancho amazing, and the praise goes right to his head. But the wolf wonders who will forge the blade since they can't rely on old Yugo. Yuri agrees. Yugo has lost his will. He'll get the materials but needs a skilled forger. Pancho asks if he knows anyone. As Yuri thinks a memory sparks, he knows just the person. Just then, the scene shifts to Tia pleading with some loan sharks. The bald goon scoffs while his partner suggests a perfect job for a cute girl like her. She flatly refuses. She says she doesn't need it. She's found her calling as a blacksmith. The masked thug claims she can earn a fortune with very little effort. He suggests it's a way to help her grandfather with his shop. She rejects him again, vowing to rebuild the shop herself. His patience runs out. He snarls at her to stop arguing and just obey. Just then, Yuri, leaping across rooftops, spots the trouble below. Yuri leaps down, landing squarely in front of Tia. He tells them he has business with the girl, so they should back off. The loan shark sneers, warning him not to interfere again. He says Yuri got lucky once, but it won't happen again. He calls for his brother, and a massive giant of a man appears. A masked woman boasts their brother is a debt-collecting legend who will snap Yuri like a twig. The giant rushes forward, swinging a massive axe at Yuri, but Yuri's sword cleanly slices through the weapon's handle. He slips behind the big guy. An elbow to the neck knocks the giant out cold. They stare in disbelief. Yuri tells them to take their friend and get lost immediately. With a terrifying glare, Yuri warns them to never return to Yugo's forge. The two quickly grab their buddy and make a run for it. Yuri turns to Tia, confirming she's Yugo's granddaughter and asking if she's alright. She says she's fine and thanks him for his help. Yuri explains he's been searching for her. He needs to talk. Tia replies she's been looking for a strong fighter just like him. She asks if he'll partner with her for SmithCon. She explains her goal is to win by forging the ultimate sword. But first she needs his help gathering ore from the eastern mine. She says to forge a superior blade she needs rare ores from that mine. But the place is filled with dangerous monsters. That's why she needs a bodyguard. Her grandpa forbade her from going, saying it was too dangerous. But she loves her grandpa's shop and has always admired his passion for sword making. So she's determined to win SmithCon, rebuild the shop, and protect her grandpa. Yuri realizes he and Tia share the exact same goal. He knows winning SmithCon requires top-tier materials, which means finding the best ore. Yuri says he understands and agrees to help her out. Grateful, she introduces herself as Tia, and Yuri does the same. Meanwhile, a one-eyed creature watches them from the shadows. Their journey takes them to Natia, the legendary capital of fire. Serial points out that Azawa went to a different mine, proving Flare wrong. He then asks Flare what she and the spirits even see in a guy like Yuri. Yuri only fought a piece of him. He'd be crushed by his true power, but Flare just calls the demon a fool for not getting it at all. She says that very foolishness will be why Yuri defeats him. Serial scoffs, saying he's looking forward to seeing that happen. Then the jerk unleashes his dark magic right on Flare. He boasts that he and Number Zero will finally settle who's the real number. The dark magic coils around Flare's throat, choking her. But even then, she affirms her unwavering faith in Yuri. Back in the forest, Tia says she's counting on Yuri, who agrees, but can't help but notice she's pretty tall for a dwarf. She explains her mom's a dwarf and her dad's a human, so she's half and half. Apparently, pure-blooded dwarves like her grandpa are pretty rare these days. Soon enough, they reach the eastern mine, a truly massive structure. Yuri immediately notes the vibe is totally different from the northern mine, and the air feels warm. Tia tells Yuri to be on his guard as only high-rank adventurers are allowed here. Hearing that Yuri casually admits he's not a high-rank adventurer, she tells him not to be so modest, explaining that dwarves have a keen eye for talent, and she saw his incredible abilities firsthand just yesterday, so she confidently declares he must be at least A rank. But then he shows her his ID, revealing he's actually F rank. Inside the mine, she's still in disbelief. His skills are way beyond F rank. Yuri explains he turned down a B rank promotion because he likes doing things his own way. Tia agrees but says they still need to be careful in here. They press forward unaware of what's waiting until Yuri spots something. He hops into a nearby mining cart and Tia immediately tells him to be careful. She tries to pull him out, warning it could be a trap, but accidentally hits the go button and gets dragged in with him. And just like that, the two are sent rocketing through the cave. Tia desperately clings on for dear life, so she doesn't get thrown out. Yuri cheerfully notes that, hey, at least they'll reach the deeper levels fast. A great start to the adventure. Tia, however, screams back that it's the absolute worst start. Suddenly, a stone creature materializes on the tracks, blocking their path. Seeing the stone golem, Tia yells that she knew it was a trap. She tells Yuri to hang back, insisting she'll handle this one herself. Yuri asks if she's sure, since he's her bodyguard, but Tia is determined. She just wants him to save his strength for the main boss. After all, a small fry like this is something even she can handle. She leaps forward, ignites a booster on her hammer, and smashes the golem to bits. Tia declares that if she wants her grandpa's approval, she has to earn it. Following her powerful attack, the girl lands perfectly in front of Yuri, and he's stunned to realize that the massive explosion, her hammer uses a special mechanism to boost her physical strength. What a unique fighting style. She warns that more golems are on their way, then immediately leaps into the attack. He calmly notes that the ore they're dropping isn't very rare. Azawa sees the girl can handle this by herself and decides not to intervene just yet. But a new creature appears and Tia just says, "This one's a little bigger." And by bigger, she means a massive B-rank golem. The huge monster lunges for a punch, but Tia doesn't even react. But then Azawa snatches her up using his fire magic to zip them both to safety. She's delighted to see her rescuer, and he casually remarks that the fun is over. He kicks a nearby cart using the force to charge the golem and slice it with his sword. Even as he tears into the creature, it refuses to fall and throws a counterpunch. The golem's fist connects with something, creating a huge explosion. It turns out Azawa had caught the blow with his bare hands using a hero memory skill. He uses his physical enhancement to effortlessly throw the golem far into the distance. He then casts a buff on himself, gathering immense physical power. With the golem flying through the air, Azawa jumps up to finish it. He pierces the huge golem with a single punch, shattering it into pieces that rain down. Watching this all unfold, Tia is absolutely beaming. She confirms to herself that her instincts about him were right all along. Back at Ugo's forge, the dwarf is stunned to see a mithril ore on his counter. Starvaldi asks if his granddaughter really got it from the eastern mine. She explains that she did, and that she went there with Azawa-san. Tia happily declares she'll use this ore to forge a great sword, win the contest, and rebuild the shop. But hearing this, Ugo's expression turns sad. He tells her it's too late for that now because their customers will never return. He says no matter how good their sword is, it can't beat the low prices of others. In the end, everything just came down to money. Annoyed, Tia tells her grandfather that if he won't make it, she'll forge the sword herself. The dwarf scolds her not to be foolish since mithril is incredibly hard to work with. He explains that even veteran blacksmiths have a hard time with it. There's no way an apprentice blacksmith could possibly manage. But she replies that she'll never know for sure unless she tries. Desperately, the young girl declares that she is Ugo's granddaughter. She knows she can do it and she'll prove his shop and his swords are the real deal. She then grabs the ore and marches toward the forge. Watching her go, the main character asks Ugo if he's sure, which makes the dwarf hesitate. The blacksmith admits she has real talent but is simply too young to handle mithril. To him, Tia is like an ore that he's poured his whole heart into shaping. He has polished her skills, hoping she'll become a beautiful sword someday. Now at the forge, a reluctant Ugo agrees to make the sword alongside Tia. In that moment, the two of them begin working together to craft the weapon. Sometime later, the main character returns to find the dwarf looking completely exhausted. Ugo explains he was making adjustments all night and must have fallen asleep. Azawa asks if the weapon isn't ready yet. However, the dwarf reveals that it's finished, and it was his first time using this material too. The final tweaks were tricky, but he nailed them. But when he opens the case for the big reveal, it's empty. Sheer panic hits him. He swears he left the sword right there. There's no way it could have just disappeared. Ugo fears it was stolen when his rival conveniently appears, mentioning a disturbance. The dwarf glares, asking what that jerk wants. The man claims he heard about the contest and came to offer support. Oh, but what a shame the sword is missing. Such a terrible thing. The pieces click into place. Ugo demands, "Was this your doing?" The shopkeeper just smirks, saying not to accuse without proof. Yuri knows this guy's super suspicious, but they don't have hard evidence. If only there was some way to be absolutely sure. And right on cue, the system delivers a new skill, mind reading. Yuri activates it immediately, his eyes glowing as he tunes into the rival's thoughts. The guy's thinking his lackey already grabbed the mithril sword. It's too late. He's mentally gloating about crushing Yugo's spirit and making him quit. Yuri thinks to himself, yep, that's our guy. Just then, Yugo confronts him, pointing to the blade on the rival's back. The shopkeeper boasts that it's the finest weapon from his store. He proudly reveals its name, the demonic sword Dandel. Yugo is shocked. A sword of that rank is incredible. The rival adds he didn't want to show it earlier, given Yugo's unfortunate loss. The shopkeeper tells Yugo to just think about that. He then excuses himself to finish his own contest preparations. At that moment, Tia wakes up and rushes to her grandfather. Yuri quickly explains that the rival's minions stole the sword, and he declares that he's going to get it back personally, but Yugo calmly asks him to wait a moment. The blacksmith says even the mithril sword can't beat that demonic blade. It seems like a total dead end. Yuri understands. Yugo confirms they'll have to forge an even stronger sword. Just as he's about to reveal the secret material, Tia interrupts. The girl asks her grandpa where they can even find such a thing. She's determined to solve this, asking him to let her handle it. Our hero agrees, promising he'll help save the shop too. Yugo smiles warmly. He knew they would both say that. He felt like he was sinking alone, but that's not the case now. He tells them their new quest find the magical sacred mineral. With it, they can create a sword that surpasses everything else. Yuri immediately asks where they can find it. Yugo directs them to the bustle mine in the fire city of Netia. Yuri suddenly recalls his strange dreams involving Flare. He gets a feeling this trip won't be a simple one. Soon Yuri and Tia are flying on a sky dragon. She says they're arriving. They approach a vast valley which Tia explains is the fire capital, Netia. Touching down, they began to wander through the city streets. Tia noted the eerie quiet, asking what on earth was going on. Azawa spotted someone ahead and said he should ask them what was up. The old man looked surprised, asking if Yuri could tell just by looking. He warned them it was a bad time and they should leave the city now. He explained that Netia once flourished because of its mining industry. But when darkness took the bustle mine, its magic began to vanish. Nobody visited anymore. In short, Netia was finished. Tia realized that without magic, the crops wouldn't grow, harming all life and sealing Netia's fate. Yuri remembered something similar in Luminina. They had a problem to solve before they could get the sacred ore. The old man saw the outsiders were determined to go to the mine. He begged Yuri to give up for his own sake, explaining the mine was no longer a place for humans. Before he left, he added that the guild had set up restrictions. Yuri realized this was a problem since there were no high-rank adventurers here. This immediately set Tia off and she started arguing with him. Suddenly, a voice declared a high-rank adventurer was here after all. Chloe greeted Azawa, saying it had been a while. Yuri recognized her instantly. It was Chloe from the Rose Group. They had worked together on the Evil Dragon Subjugation mission. Tia asked what she was doing here, and Chloe said she was investigating the dark magic in the Bustle Mine. Chloe seemed curious about what Yuri and his friends were discussing. He admitted he was also there because of the mine, since they needed to collect its sacred ore. Yuri asked if they could join her. Chloe agreed, noting his skill was undeniable. If he was offering to help, it would be a huge advantage. Just then, an elf appeared, announcing his opposition. Nasty Brawler. Another adventurer declared he wouldn't allow strangers in his group. Chloe tried to reason with him, saying that though Yuri was rank F, he fought like an A or even S rank, but the smug elf insisted there was no way a rank F could keep up. He claimed Yuri would only slow them down and that they had to leave. Yuri calmly stated that he was going to the mine no matter what. He proposed that if Masti acknowledged his strength, he had to let them join. The elf agreed to the challenge, telling Yuri to prove his worth. A short distance away, the two stood ready for their duel. Masti declared their duel would be with an ice tower, as elves disliked bloody contests. They would use magic to form ice towers and be judged on quality. This was a sacred and traditional form of dueling. The young elf declared that he would take the first turn. Placing a hand on the ground, he summoned ice spikes that formed a huge, elegant pillar. Tia was amazed. Chloe explained Masti possessed incredible magical power. No one had ever managed to beat him in an ice tower duel. The elf remarked that the low mana here was making it hard to use his full power. Then turning to Yuri, he declared that this was the power of a rank A adventurer. He challenged the boy, asking if he could possibly create a tower with such precision. Azawa admits it sounds tricky, making Tia and Chloe nervous. Masti was ready to celebrate, but Yuri told everyone to freeze. Placing a hand down, he encased the entire area in glistening ice. The elf then felt the ground begin to shake. He wondered if it was all freezing over, even making Tia and Chloe unsteady. Suddenly, a huge pillar lifted them, and Yuri high up. Seeing the massive ice tower, Masti was speechless, and Yuri just apologizes, saying he isn't good with delicate work. The pillar of ice began gliding toward the mine. Tia is clearly enjoying the ride, as Chloe says Azawa always surprises her. Masti reluctantly agrees. He has no choice. Riding the ice, the group travels toward their objective. Masti finds it odd for Azawa to be rank F when he's clearly so talented. He easily has what it takes for a promotion. Yuri asks how that works, so the elf explains the adventurer rank-up system. You must clear 4 missions of your current rank inside of 1 year. This investigation is actually Chloe's mission to get from rank B to rank A. The elf says his friend is skilled enough for rank A, and he's rooting for her promotion. Chloe explains Masti is her senior from the Magical Research Society. He's strict but reliable, and she truly respects him. Yuri realizes there's a pretty big process behind ranking up. Not that it really has anything to do with him, though. Masti cuts in, saying, to save the talk for later, the bustle mine is right ahead. Yuri notes the atmosphere feels exactly like a dungeon. Tia remarks that the magic here smells awful. Masti says this is an early-stage singularity, which could make this an S-rank mission. Masti tells Chloe that they can still back out, asking her to make the call, but she refuses. They've come this far. Retreat is not an option. A determined Yuri adds that it being a singularity doesn't matter. Their goal is the sacred magical ore, and that's that. The elf agrees, telling everyone to stay alert and press on. And so the party ventures into the mine. Inside, a dark golem appears. Masti and Chloe quickly attack with fire and wind magic. With the golem distracted, Tia charges forward, hammer raised. She smashes the monster, but the blow has no effect. Masti explains it has high resistance, probably from the dark magic. That's when Yuri calmly lifts a hand. Green energy flows from his palm, heading right for the golem. The impact creates an explosion, leaving everyone completely stunned. Yuri walks by his allies explaining holy magic is great against dark monsters. So he tells everyone to just keep him busy and he'll purify them. Masty, seeing him use holy magic, so casually asks Chloe just who this guy is, but she just replies that she was just as surprised when they met. Further on, the two elves coordinate their attack. They use a joint ice spell to immobilize another golem. Azawa quickly finishes it off with his purification magic. The blonde praises their excellent teamwork, and Chloe agrees, urging them to press on. Just then, Tio warns everyone to stay on their toes. A panicked little girl cries out that something smells awful. In that instant, Chloe, Masty, and Yuri sense something strange. A pile of rocks begins floating above them with a weird energy. Then a creature plummets from the sky, and Yuri recognizes it as a master golem of darkness. The humanoid figure rushes toward Yuri, who barely blocks the attack. Chloe and Masty try to freeze the monster, but their attempt fails. It was just too quick. Yuri and the creature trade fierce blows for a while. Our main character tries using purification magic, but it doesn't work. The creature lands a solid punch, slamming him to the ground. The monster then grabs Yuri by the collar and hurls him away. The boy realizes that even mid-level holy magic is useless against its high resistance. The system announces Yuri has acquired high-level holy magic. As he gets up, he figures it's because he used holy magic so many times. Planting his foot against the wall, the young man decides he'll try an experiment and leaps upward. The golem spots him and follows, jumping into the air. Yuri then forms a spear of holy magic, piercing the enemy's chest. While they are still in midair, a massive explosion erupts, blinding everyone for a moment. Seeing the light, Chloe wonders what's going on, and Tia exclaims that it's too bright to see, once the bright flash fades. Yuri appears before Tia, showing her he took the holy ore from the golem. Tia is overjoyed at the sight, cheering that Yuri is amazing. Masty tells Chloe he's officially seen it all. But all of a sudden, the ground beneath them crumbles and they all start falling into an abyss. The entire ceiling begins to collapse, and Chloe asks if this is some kind of magic. As they fall, Chloe sees the mist is thickening. Masty guesses the source of the singularity is nearby. Then Tia tells everyone to look, pointing to a light far below. After falling for a bit, they drop through a hole into a fiery chamber. Serial says he can't believe Yuri beat his black magic creation so easily. Now in his true demon form, he tells Number Zero it's a pleasure to finally meet him. The main character simply acknowledges him. Masty and Chloe are terrified of the being, but Yuri tells Lime he's counting on him. Lime immediately expands, catching all four and saving them from the fall. Without a moment's hesitation, Yuri leaps forward to strike his opponent. Their attacks clash, and Yuri immediately realizes that Serial's real power is on a whole other level compared to their fight in Leverup. Suddenly, Yuri hears a familiar voice calling his name. It's Flare, looking exhausted. She says she knew he would come. Again, Yuri feels he's met Flare before, just like with Aqua. Our main character has a flashback of his talks with Aqua, and the danger Serial poses. With the power of spirits, he concludes he has to rescue Flare right now. Serial suddenly teleports behind the main character, telling him now is not the time to get distracted. But before Serial can act, sharp ice crystals shoot up between them. Model. Chloe and Masty team up, pledging their full support to Azawa. Irritated, Serial dismisses them as noisy insects. Tia realizes this creature is far stronger than any golem they've ever fought. Yet the trio holds their ground. Adventurers are truly something else. Chloe creates an ice path to the flying Serial, letting Yuri charge his opponent. Serial casually defends himself using only his bare hands. Still, the main character's sword blast sends the demon flying back. The demon admits the adventurers are annoying, but their teamwork is quite clever. But he says it's a shame and decides to up the stakes. A purple aura paralyzes Tia, Chloe, and Masty where they stand. He then casually tosses them aside. In the air, he looks down, wondering why humans are so weak. Sprouting 4 wings, he sneers that they should just become noble demons. Then they too could have eternal beauty and strength. Looking down, Serial says there is just one exception. A monster who gave up being human, and that was Yuri. Only one remains, and he declares there'll be no more interruptions. He says they are going to finish this right now. Serial questions if Azawa can even beat his true form. Using his past life skills, Azawa asserts that his mission will not change. A brilliant golden aura surrounds him. Sword in one hand, magic in the other. The main character declares anyone blocking his freedom will be utterly crushed. Serial grins, summons a black scythe, and advances on Yuri. He appears instantly before the boy, who seems completely unfazed. The two opponents clash, trading blows with incredible speed and power. Yuri dodges. A strike creates distance and fires an energy blast from his sword. Serial, however, just spins his scythe, deflecting the attack. He then hurls the deadly weapon toward Yuri. Our hero leaps over the scythe and rushes straight for Serial. The demon shows his control, making the weapon fly back at Yuri. Yuri is forced to parry a flurry of strikes with his sword. After taking several cuts, our hero is still standing, but clearly weaker. Serial mockingly asks where all his earlier confidence went. As he starts moving slower, Yuri analyzes his opponent's weapon. He learns the scythe absorbs blood, getting stronger with every hit. The demon presses forward again, exchanging more blows with Yuri. Yuri realizes his fatigue is from the significant blood loss. Azawa knows that at this rate, the speed gap will only get wider. And that was definitely not good. Suddenly, a skill called Breath of the Wind, God blasts Serial, forcing a retreat. Chloe and Masi, barely standing after that spell, urge Yuri not to lose. They yell that he's not the type of guy to go down like this. The demon, seeing they're still conscious, says it changes nothing. He vows to just kill them all, then heads for Masi and Chloe. Using his wind skill, Yuri instantly appears in front of Serial. He raised his sword, mocking his foe. Something about him had clearly changed. The two powerhouses finally clashed high up in the air. The battle was fierce, with both unleashing devastating attacks. Serial's assault nearly landed several times. Their conflict raged across the landscape, making the very lava churn. Dodging back, the main character knew he was only barely ahead of Serial. He had to end this now, before his enemy could adapt. In that moment, he forged a phoenix dragon from pure flame. With a swing of his sword, he sent it soaring toward his foe. Serial recognized the move that had destroyed his clone before. So the demon unleashed his power, the world of darkness, plunging Yuri into an indescribable void. Serial commented that it was truly a shame. He had already prepared for Azawa's ultimate technique. In that dark void, the boy was utterly powerless. Number 4 told Number 0 it was over, that he'd finally surpassed Yuri. He would soar even higher to stand by that person's side. But then a light like a phoenix's flame began to glow from Azawa. All at once, he vaporized the darkness with flames that could scorch hell itself. Seeing Yuri cloaked in fire, the demon demanded to know what that form was. Flare gave his ally a little nudge. He declared that Serial was totally screwed, as Azawa had promised to take him down. Irritated, the demon summoned the spirits of the cursed. He demanded to know how many times they would get in his way, adding he was disappointed in 0. The demon explained that Azawa used to be a lone warrior, but now he needed his allies' help and was useless alone. With a ball of dark magic in hand, he lunged at his opponent, calling Yuri a complete disgrace. He launched his spell at Azawa, asking if this was the freedom he wanted. But Serial's power had no effect on Yuri whatsoever. The hero declared that as long as he has his freedom, he doesn't care about others. But it's not that simple. Though it's a hassle, he'll help others, so they'll help him, because it seems his true freedom lies with those people too. In that instant, Azawa's sword blazed to life as he charged forward. And he pierced right through Serial with every bit of his strength model.